Welcome everybody to the AEL Uni League Dota 2 Season 1 Lower Bracket Finals. Thank you so much for waiting patiently. We just had a few technical issues, but luckily now all of that has been resolved. We are ready to start our series tonight between Looney Melb from the University of Melbourne and AU Esports' UO Andros, two of the premier teams here in the AEL Uni League. So I'm not going to make you wait very much longer at all. We're straight into the draft of Game 1 here. Of course, I am the Wandering Bard. I'm going to be bringing you this best of 3 lower bracket finals tonight as these two teams strive to reach the grand finals where they will clash with, if I'm not deeply mistaken, the Warrior Chads, a truly intimidating force. But I'm sure that all of their minds are focused on tonight's matchup because this will not be an easy win for either team. Expect probably a 3-game series regardless of which way it ultimately goes. And this first draft is obviously going to dictate a lot about how the next few games shape up. Pretty standard first couple of picks here. Mars into Chaos Knight's always interesting since Chaos Knight is one of the better melee heroes at surviving the laning blender that is the God of War. But you know, it doesn't make Mars any less good in the overall game. And obviously, this is just such a comfort pick for so many players at this point. It's become the rock of competitive Dota. Just that one pick that's pretty much always viable. But the partners do change from patch to patch, and of course bringing in Pugna now alongside the Grimstroke, or rather opposite the Grimstroke, for UO Andros. So we see two very potent laning combos potentially going head-to-head, although in recent days have seen a few aggro tri-lanes starting to creep back into the pro meta over in Europe. It's obviously a long-held classic and favourite of many Australian Dota teams and players, so maybe we'll start to see some teams elect to dodge some of the more withering off lanes by moving their carry into an aggressive role. Certainly Chaos Knight's capable of that, being played straight up as an offlaner at various times in the last couple of patches, but I don't think that's what UO Andros are planning today, especially in game 1 of a best of 3 against a team that you respect as a rival. Looney Melb obviously have a pretty winning record here in the Uni League, although this season has been more difficult for them in some ways. And yeah, you may be just happy to go with a very standard CK Grim lane and trust that they're going to outplay the Mars, or at least go even in the lane. Then you can really start to set the tempo through the mid game. Of course, Mars and Pugna, both heroes that prefer to be playing to their own pace of a game. Pugna, especially as a core, although here it's more likely a support, tends to, try and make the game about towers early on and pressuring them, especially mid-tower, where, Mars also, as I love to harp on, very much a hero that wants to be the initiating force, or at least on the team that is the initiating force. The impact of the arena spear combo goes down dramatically every second that it's not used after the start of a fight in most cases. So UO Andros, on the other hand, playing around no great long cooldowns at this point in time, and mostly looking, it seems like, to stop other heroes that are good in that sort of mid-game, fast-paced, brawling context. Riki, Underlord, Storm, Puck, and Gyrocopter definitely bans that are slanted towards the mid lane, but also, no big, long ultimate heroes really. Like Looney Melb, on the other hand, have banned out Jakiro, Snapfire, Necrophos, Quap, and Bloodseeker, and now pick a Pangolier for themselves. So you can see the contrast already established. One team having real teamfight superiority already, thanks to the Arena of Blood and the Rolling Thunder, and not to mention, of course, the Pugna Ward. Pugna becoming just a really more understated teamfight hero, but no less powerful in the last couple of patches with how players have been building and playing it. Probably going to pick up that Wraith Pact at some point in time. And UO Andros, they now have to decide how they want to confront this. Will they try and match up to this teamfight firepower, or will they try and split the map more? Will they try and out-farm? Or will they try and take the tempo, take the initiative away from Looney Melb? It looks like that's what they're going for. I like the idea. Night Stalker picked up now for UO Andros. So, flexible third core could be the offlaner, but could also still, if they felt intimidated by the prospect of potentially a Mars Pugna lane or something of that sort, they could pivot it, right? Night Stalker is the kind of offlane that you could feasibly play in the safe lane if you felt that lane was actually more difficult. It is a hero that benefits with farm if your safe lane, if your primary carry gets shut down and you need a different hero to step into the gap and become strong in the meantime to create space. Night Stalker can do the job, and denying vision is, again, one of the best ways to counter a hero like Mars and like Pangolier. These heroes, their ults aren't as easy to snap off as something like a Ravage or an Earthshaker Echo Slam, you need to have vision, you need to have a bit of premeditation to deploy them to full effect, and taking the tempo away from your opponents, taking the vision away from them with Night Stalker's abilities is a great way to reduce their impact. Tusk, though, not a hero I'm as used to seeing, but certainly one way to get a hero out of danger if they are being locked down in the arena or under, a small choke point by Pangolia's ball, if they're getting Pugna drained. Tusk, if you have fast fingers, just a catch-all save for those situations, as well as a way to cancel channeling spells like the Pugnas. And, your choice of a save is vindicated as Ursa, another single target burst hero, comes out for Looney Melb. That one isn't as cooldown dependent, so they're making sure that they're not too dependent on those team fights, not completely incapacitated for the couple of minutes in between their cooldowns being up, which is always smart. You want a balanced draft in most cases. Now we're on to our last set of bans here. Both teams with one pick remaining. It looks like for Looney Melb, they could be missing a mid, but they have several heroes that are flexible in their core positions, so they're leaving that one to UO Andros to try and decide. I suspect they'll still be hedging their bans towards the mid lane, as they have been throughout the whole draft, and Lina does seem to be the case, although it's been a while since Lina mid was very popular. Or Lina at all. And UO Andros, on their hand, they are more committed. It seems very clear that a mid laner is what they're in the market for as well. So if both teams continue to ban out mid laners, there's only a few common mid picks left in the pool at all here. So we're going to get maybe a specialty pick in game one, something a bit cheesy, or maybe just, a less seen mid hero with something flexing across to the slot. There's still a Tiny to be picked up if either team seems interested, although there are counters available for either side. There's still Invoker in the pool. There's still Void Spirit. So a number of prominent mid laners are available, but either team would have to. They have to figure out what they want in the next couple of seconds. Not only is their time running out, but also the available pool of heroes is draining dry. I wonder perhaps if either team, particularly Looney Melb, would dare grab up a sniper. Sniper hero I've been seeing a little bit more in terms of being taken seriously by teams, and definitely Mars is a great complement to it. You've got a very, very, very strong front line, right? The Mars, Panglia, Ursa, even Pugna, they all demand attention in fights, and that takes some of the heat off a hero like Sniper, who just wants a couple of seconds of space in a fight to peep away. And obviously having the arena is hugely synergistic with the Sniper in terms of controlling access to his position, in terms of blocking projectiles. The Bulwark does the same, so that's a nice little combo, but I don't know if either team are in the market for that. Certainly you don't really need extra damage when you've got Ursa, so unless you're worried about the Ursa being kited, but with 3 melee heroes already picked up by UO Andros, that doesn't seem like a huge concern. And they ban out the Coddle instead. Has been a growing mid pick over the course of this patch. Definitely something I've enjoyed seeing, but we won't be seeing it today. Instead, UO Andros, after banning Batrider, they pick up a Brewmaster themselves, so the classic 4-strength melee lineup. Definitely an arms race in terms of tankiness here, although Looney Melb with Ursa and Panglia, they may not have strength heroes across the board, but they do have that Pugna damage reduction, they do have Enrage and Shield Crash, so all sorts of tankiness coming out from both sides here. And Looney Melb, they have the opportunity to finish that off with another beefy boy in the final slot, or they could completely flip this game on its head with a more fringe pick. I'm not sure what they're going to choose to go for, though. I don't know if it's worth going for some extreme counter pick, some sort of percent-based damage hero. I don't know if anyone's comfortable playing things like mid-Enigma right now, or mid-Phoenix. I don't think these picks are particularly great, but they could go with something, I don't know, like a Viper to try and kite these melee heroes, something that's not afraid of getting blinked up by a Night Stalker, or they could potentially even go for something like a Silencer, and I'm sure the Night Stalker is meant to discourage that, but still, against a Brewmaster, you do consider ways that you could deny that brew split in fights. And there's a lot of powerful spell combos, in particular Grimstroke and Tusk, heroes that really want to be sequencing their spells tightly together. So when you already have overwhelming team fight power, that's one other way to bolster it. And I do feel like Silencer Core has been undergoing a little bit of a renaissance thanks to the int carry items being added, but this is another one that's been more consistent with the patch. The mid Sand King, I would expect it is, from 9 here for Looney Melb, going to be hoping to win the farm war in the mid lane, and then give his team an extra source of initiation, giving Mars a really easy game in terms of being able to pick his spots with the arena, maybe just focus backline heroes, aim on the arena being annoying instead of always fight winning, and just make it difficult for UO Andros to ever really get set up on a target. The downside of not having these really big fight starting spells is that you're more likely to be walking in and all trying to walk over to your targets, especially as melee characters, and that's just not going to fly against Pangolier, Mars, and Sand King. So setting the obstacles up for Andros to overcome, but this is only game 1, and I'm sure that Andros feel as though they are prepared for anything. In this case, Sand King, not really a surprise pickup at this point. So the players, they're locking their heroes in. We're going to jump into the match, but while we're here, I do also want to take the opportunity to thank our sponsors. So we may as well start off with Predator. Predator are our gaming PC parts partner here at the AEL Uni League. Conquer new worlds of Predator gaming. Predator put power and precision in your hands to elevate your gaming experience in every way, with quality and performance thanks to Predator. Then, of course, we have to thank AOC. They are the best viewing experience, not just for Dota, but now they have launched the first ever monitor crafted for League of Legends. So if you are a LoL enjoyer like Monica in this game, you can enjoy League of Legends being represented in every aspect of this new monitor, from the iconic Hextech design and logo to a specific game setting mode. In-game visuals will achieve their fullest potential from the combination of AOC's monitor expertise and the creators of the League of Legends Riot games themselves. So, that's always good to have in your back pocket if you decide that the Dota career is not working out. You can get your League of Legends optimized monitor, the Aegon Pro AG275 QXL today at au.aoc.com. And as the players get out on the map now, we will quickly but thoroughly thank our final sponsor, Rig. They are what it takes to win. They are our headset sponsor. They develop headsets which deliver superior audio for competitive gamers and streamers at all levels. So join the Rig team and enhance your gaming experience. And boy, my gaming experience is about to be fully enhanced right now because we are seeing, yes, some early aggression here from the side of the Dire, or actually perhaps just Reem on this Brewmaster slapping down a ward? Just checking for early wards, I suppose, from the tower, just the casual vision check. And now the rest of the team follows in, really making this thorough, but the Radiant are spread out across the map. We've got Vorkor up on the Mars here, ably assisted by Zoobs on that Pangolier. Looks like 4-pos Pangolier, as you might expect. We've got Samsara on the Pugna as well, ready to deward any action from the opponents. Monica, the LoL enjoyer, rocking that Ursa Warrior, and of course the mid Sand King getting ready to block from the outset 9. Meanwhile, the Dire will take over the rune spot, so early win for Reem and company. I am not going to be able to pronounce this Grimstroke's name. I'm going to say it's Toph. If it's not, my deepest apologies. You're going to get something from me. And Hugh on the Chaos Knight, rolling in double gauntlets of strength, getting ready for potentially Soul Ring to start off that lane. And I would expect CK Grimstroke to have the advantage in this lane, although to have kind of been abandoned here to the Wolves or the Pangolins, as Zoobs gets to whack away with that Blightstone. That's going to help tip the tables a little bit, right? A huge amount of physical damage pressure coming out from these two melee heroes if they're allowed to hit, but you have to imagine that if not at level 1, then yeah, actually we do have the level 1 Inkswell to respect this double melee lane. You can see the damage already being done. If you thought Zoobs was getting some action in early with the Blightstone, check out the spell combo out of this very, very powerful dual lane. Grimstroke and CK, obviously a 1-2 pick combo that's been very popular for a reason. Xandros loses courier to the speedy little skeleton, Pugna, I'd assume. But yeah, that's what I was saying, is Zoob's obviously going to find ways to work his way into this game, but with as long as Toph and Hugh stay close enough together to chain their spells, as we see a slight slip up on that front, Toph not quite in position. The level 1 cast range of Inkswell is pretty short, and Hugh's just whacking away, but I don't know that they win this. They just win this auto attack duel, just being able to skate ahead of the Pangolier, but behind the Creep Wave. The Creep Wave does catch up with them, though, and Zoobs is going to pick up not a double kill. One of those kills was split bounty, but both kills in the lane going in favor of the Radiant. Only one kill to the Dire, so maybe not quite what they were hoping for. At some point, you are just committed to the situation. I'm sure Hugh is satisfied to at least bring down the Mars. That's the big prize, but yeah, again, considering how strong the spell combo is, maybe not the ideal start to the lane. CK going to ferry some regen and at least be back at full health now, but a lot of XP to this very XP-hungry support. A level 3 Pangolier in the lane now, getting clarityed up by the Mars even. I don't know if this is a you're the core now situation, but Yeah, it's certainly an interesting way for the lane to evolve. Meanwhile, in the mid lane, as we check the last hits, my apologies, is Reem, of course, dominating the CS. So this was their late pick, but the CK was picked into this, and Zoobs actually goes down, so that's the spell combo paying off. Still not as much action on the bottom lane, despite Monica trying to get to grips with Andros. Nightstalker just sort of resolutely farming away. I don't know if we've got any braces up yet, but we do have the triple gloves of strength, gauntlets of strength, in order to facilitate some peaceful laning, whether or not the Ursa is willing. But yeah, Reem here on the Brewmaster pick in the mid lane, really showing his stuff in the laning phase, dominating the last hits chart, although Sand King, having pushed the lane back in, is able to catch up a bit now and maybe even pull ahead using the jungle camps. The bottle is out, the water runes are gathered, and the farm fest in mid between these two melee strength heroes is about to begin. It's not likely that either of them will threaten a solo kill, you'd have to imagine, so they're mostly going to be focused on their economy and how early they can reach the timing where they can rotate to these side lanes and cause a big splash with their extra levels and gold. Okay, CK ferrying some boots over, really just rocking those casual gauntlets, which is a fair decision. May or may not combine them into braces, which are, of course, a bit more valuable now, but speaking of value going to be lost on this stack as Zoobs does a great job of mostly denying that pull. One creep still managed to get over there, and bottom lane, okay, we're starting to see the pressure add up now. Unleashy getting really low on the Tusk there, Andros still tanking through it, Nightstalker a beefy fella. And yeah, pretty passive, peaceful laning phase, other than the fact that the constant pressure both teams are exerting is kind of stopping most players from drifting out of their lane. No stacks really made so far. No real help given to the mid players on the runes, perhaps because these heroes are more passive than your average mids, and mostly the action, if it's not in the lane, is up here between these two, Zoobs and Toph going at it. Zoobs getting the better mostly of this. Those extra levels mean it's probably not surprising that he is, but really making it difficult for Grimstrike to utilize the camps, although Zoob's tanking the creep wave there. Unwise. Toph comes round the trees with the Inkswell. Tricky stuff. Just got the end of that play there, but it's pretty clear to see. Just abuse the vision a little bit. You can probably tell you're getting Inkswell, but by that point in time, you're too late. As soon as you've used the Pangolier spells to try and farm that creep camp, you are exposed, and they punish him for it. Now, maybe you say worth in voice chat. Maybe you sound, very credible. Maybe you got a good poker face, but I'm sure the team aren't too pleased at giving up a kill there, especially giving the XP back to Toph and leaving Vorkor alone as they now try the same on him. The double stun combo comes out. Mars has no such movement ability. He'll do his best though, shoving Hugh away, denies a lot of the damage, and now Zoobs comes back in. Perfect timing on the respawn. Probably going to get this Grimstrike now as well, so they turn that around. They, I thought it might have been a little bit ambitious to go after the full health Mars with the Bracer, and so it proved. Meanwhile, now in the mid lane, Reem Nizzle, Morb Nizzle does have level 6 on the Brewmaster, has skilled the ultimate, so the Primal Split is available, and the Urn is online, so you can see the potential for rotation early is there now, or at least it will be once some mana is available on the hero, enough for to his power. But Sand King, unperturbed by this, still up in the lane under the Sandstorm, farming happily. There is a Dire Sentry that's currently holding vision over that mid lane, but again, I think it's one of those cases where, A, you've clicked the mana bar and seen there's no split, and B, if Reem splits, you're just going to see a Burrow Strike away, and there's going to be very little concern, although 9 does expend that Burrow. Reem, yeah, on the other hand, there's so much damage. Sandstorm is such an unreal amount of damage, especially when you're a melee hero and you're taking stray hits from the Caustic Finale as well. It really does discourage any aggression quickly, and they remain locked neck and neck in the farm race in mid. Overall, though, the farm race is going slightly in favor of the Radiant, both side lanes having a bit of a better time than their Dire counterparts. So that's something, Vorkor is going to be happy about up here on the Mars. Things are working out. Building a second Bracer. Now in the mid lane, might have our first rotation, and it's from the Dire. Nine's in trouble, gets stunned up by the Grim. Doesn't have mana for the Epicenter, and so there's no real response. Doesn't even have mana for the Burrow. Sandstorms realizes he's being hit, and his last act is to remove the Sentry Ward that was plaguing him, but it is too late to save his life, and that is a Sentry Ward well worth it. Great rotation as well from the Grim. They are trying to exploit it by counter-rotating onto Hugh, but Unleashy comes up top on the Tusk, still has the TP, and they turn it around. Really didn't need much help from the Tusk, although might need help to save Hugh now from Vorkor, and yeah, Unleashy took the wrong path around the trees. Vorkor just took the direct route from the lane. That CK was very low, and a great spear into trees. There's just no way, unless you couldn't line up those shards. It was just an awkward angle to try and push the Mars away. It's a very tricky spell to land in those sorts of desperate moments when you don't have the time to reposition, so they're going to console themselves by going bottom and taking it out on some Samsara, Sins of the Father, or Sins of the core player in this case, will be exacted upon the supports, and the Pugna goes down. Hugh back up to the lane. I don't know if you can really afford to get aggressive on Vorkor, but at least he doesn't have mana for the arena right now. They're trying to force something out of him. He wants, but the mana is better used to spear back the Chaos Knight for the nth time this game. And that seems like it's just going to keep working in terms of discouraging aggression, unless they have a very strong train of crowd control on the Mars. Maybe with the Grimstroke back in the lane, that Phantom's Embrace could help prevent it, but instead it's being used to prevent the Ursa's escape. Definitely a bigger bounty if they can get it, and Andros will stand firm in the face of the overpower Fury swipes and knock Monica out of the game for the next 20 seconds at least. Nice little bounty claimed on top of that as well, and some equal disruption to the Ursa's farm to try and make them feel a little bit better about the harassment this Chaos Knight's receiving. So the laning phase starting to break down, but still kind of a 2v2 scenario here. The Radiant certainly holding firm. Chaos Knight is, SK is farming deeper in the jungle on the Radiant side, but in the meanwhile, Chaos Knight is trying to farm Pangolier in the Dire jungle. Zoobs, though, slipperier than most melee neutral creeps, is able to swashbuckle away. And now we see a teleport bottom from the Pugna, so no Mars rotation yet. The arena is ready. Their epicenter is ready. This kind of dive is extremely dangerous in this scenario, and Andros, looking to prove how dangerous it is, almost dies to just Samsara, but they do pick off Monica, so the Lacquer, and now the Sand King tries to teleport, but it's cancelled, or rather, maybe he cancels it. I didn't see exactly what happened there, but certainly after the Ursa's dead, there's a lot less value in that play. Decides to make the play on Reem instead. Drops the Epi, but it's not enough. Brewmaster is just too healthy. So now the TP is spended, and the ultimate is also expended from 9. No gain at all. And look, it's not going to interrupt his farming much, at least. That's the benefit, I suppose, of not rotating bottom. But I don't know whether or not Monica would have maybe expected the team to help there. There's multiple of those strong team-fighting ultimates already available. Heroes had their TPs ready, and nobody came. Maybe that Sand King teleport was on cooldown until that very second. We have to give the benefit of the doubt. I didn't click to check, but rough stuff if that's the case. Andros taking full advantage and continues to progress on this Night Stalker, now rocking the double brace, a Soul Ring phase boot set up for the early game, even some raindrops on top of it all to make sure he's as formidable as possible through this laning phase, and Samsara is right to hide in the trees. Meanwhile, Hugh, with the attention being given lovingly by Unleash, she has been able to take back control of this top lane a little bit, especially with the Pangolier now encamped near mid. Zoobs is kind of expecting a rotation onto the SK, maybe because the ultimate's down, but there's no rotation. They're just playing these lanes. Samsara is almost certain to go down bottom, and in fact already does, and Vorkor is actually killed at top. It was Morb Reemnizzle who has rotated up to the top, says it's Morbin time, doesn't actually hit the Primal Spirit, so no Morb involved, but able to bring down the Mars without it, so no arena used, still no split used, not even an even trade of ultimates, and in terms of taking the tempo away from their opponents, this that I sort of foreshadowed in the draft, certainly has worked out so far. Now the Primal Split's unleashed. There's just kills happening all over the map. Every time I look at the minimap, it seems like more ultimates are being deployed. I'm sure we're about to see a counter gank or a counter initiation onto Hugh at the top lane. There's the arena as the Brewlings try to make more hay under the middle tower. Finally, as you would expect, a team of quality is able to find a lane that their opponents aren't currently committing ultimates to and make use of one of their big cooldowns. They do get a high value kill out of it, so Hugh dying a painful death, but that is only one kill back in favor on what was an absolutely torrid stretch there. Uo Andros pulling far ahead, now 2k gold up, which is, considerable at this point in the game for, what was a relatively peaceful and, even Radiant favored early game. Not so, and despite lacking maybe some of the powerful cooldowns of their opponents, they've been able to really get the first jump, and now let's see if they can continue to maintain that advantage. Their opponent's arena is on cooldown, so they go top onto Vorkor. How dare you push the tower without that spell, sir? Zoobs on the Pangolier, not going to be able to do enough, especially when locked down by the Soulbind from Grimstroke, completely negating that Rolling Thunder. A painful moment for any Pangolier player, as I'm sure many of you know. And Andros just absolutely mops up. He's wicked sick with a triple kill on this offlane Night Stalker. Meanwhile, the mid lane Sand King is farming the jungle still. I have to check. The Blink Dagger timing is ready. So we're farming a Boots of Travel now. This is definitely not, wait guys, just 2 more minutes, I'm finishing my item. I feel like if you thought there was a winning fight to take, you'd be there. This is the consolation farming. This is sadness farming because my team is dying and there's nothing else to do. But now, luckily it's early game, the team's respawning and they come straight to the bottom lane. 9 wants to make a retaliatory play, and once again, the Chaos Knight is the target. So just as telegraphed, they're kind of hanging Hugh out to dry, or at least taking those risks, and I suppose as long as Reem and Andros are farming, that's all right. You're the junior partner here today, Chaos Knight, and Hugh is again made to take the fall for the greed of his firm. the UO Andros firm. Hopefully they'll give him some space back at some point, but at least Chaos Knight obviously retains a lot of that punching power with the stun and the ultimate. Still going to be able to at least bully supports or force maybe some untimely decreps out of Samsara. But, for now, the heroes that are getting strong are the heroes whose strength is most felt in the mid-game. And Andros fully adopting the role of carry here with the Hand of Midas pickup. Subbing out. Oh, I suppose he's just done that for clarity. And, okay, Reem's dominating streak is ended as Vorkwar drops the arena in the mid lane. My apologies, I was preoccupied by the farming patterns of a Night Stalker. It's just riveting, isn't it? To see the Night Stalker in its natural habitat, farming the jungle creeps, establishing dominance, even during the day. It's just marvelous. But Dota and Bro will have to wait. Because right now we're seeing a predatory display on the mid tower by Vorkwar and company. They bring it down. That's a healthy injection of gold into their squad that really needed it. It's still a lead in terms of overall gold and net worth to the Dire, to UO Andros, and it will continue to go that way with this Hand of Midas being up, unless they do something drastic. Does this count as drastic? Monica is in the pit at level 8, and with a bit of the healthy suck from Samsara's Pugna, this Roshan is not going to be long for this world, but who will claim it? They are fully wise to this, UO Andros, and they will not even let Monica escape, not just satisfied with potentially stealing the big Roshan kill. They want this Ursa. That might backfire on them. Unleashy, it certainly backfires on him. He goes down. Andros, though, not concerned about the fate of his support. He is hunting for the opposite numbers. Samsara, the first to die for the Radiant, quickly followed by 9. That's your mid-sanking. That's no good. And now the Mars completely stranded. More Nizzle, Reem Nizzle on this Pandaren Brewmaster is able to create an immediate no-go zone in the fight. And unfortunately, Scott Walker right in the middle of it. And Zoobs caught lacking near the fight. Actually, Andros forced to respect the power of a tier 2 tower. That does a lot of damage, reminding us that it's only 14 minutes into the game, and only just 14 minutes now as I say that. Can't quite go diving the tier 2s just yet, even if you are fully as beefy as this Night Stalker is. Checking out the net worth, he is the highest net worth hero in the game as you'd expect, almost 7k, and even if some of that is being slightly inefficiently used at the moment on an economy item like a Midas, that's still a nasty, nasty character to tangle with. So they beautifully read the Roshan play. This high ground ward I think was thrown up during the fight. Actually, no, that's been there a while, so that was just fully scouted, I suppose. They didn't smoke the pit. They just took a roll of the dice there. And I have to imagine that was why there was such a crisp response from the Dire. Pays off in spades. Vision, always the game winner in Dota. And Vorkwar, oh, that's not a game winner. Unfortunate, you have to go for it at times. There's no Blink Dagger up yet on this Mars. He's just rushing a BKB, relying on his Sand King or maybe his Pango to initiate, but the Pango is trying to initiate a top lane on Andros, who is just going to walk out of this, and maybe Zoobs will be the one instead who ends up getting ganked. They have range on the Snowball. Pangolier in trouble, dashes away, doesn't have a TP scroll for it. Oh, he goes for it, but yeah, there's absolutely no hope. There are so many stuns available. Things going from bad to worse here for Looney Meld. They try and make a counterplay in mid. They identify a support Toph, straying a little far away from his base there with his team showing in top lane. That is an easy kill to make happen. And finally, there's a little bit of what you hope to see from this Pugna Sand King combination, right? You've got a lot of long-range damage, fast damage, safe damage coming out from these heroes that can just pick off low hit point heroes. The problem is that Grimstroke is really the only low hit point hero that's available to be picked. And, I mean, they knew that in the draft when they went back for this Sand King, so I don't know whether they expected there to be more 5v5 fighting, but they have definitely lost the ability to dictate the flow of this game, and they're only just now trying to play their way back into it, pressuring this mid-tier 2, 9, pump faking an Epicenter. It's very clear what they're trying to do. Monica is just hanging around, has the Diffusal Blade complete. Meanwhile, the CK rocking that Aegis is more of a farming Aegis for is the weakest of the Dire cores, but still, it's worth noting, far richer than anyone on the side of Lunimeld, and Vorkwar will continue to not get any richer. Is actually ganked to bottom lane. I was watching the Ursa, now the initiation goes on here. Monica trying to trade blows with Unleash, but can't even get that done. Andros is godlike on the Night Stalker. I mean, we always knew that Andros is really like a god of Oz Dota, Unileague Dota, but now proving it beyond godlike. Even Toph throwing out some celebratory Grimstroke ultimates to make sure there is no counterplay, and triple kill to the Night Stalker. This offlane has worked wonders for UO Andros. And I don't know whether the intent was all along to sack the Chaos Knight, but certainly being okay with the trades they were taking in the top lane has worked out great for them. They were able to successfully draw attention away from the CK while leaving Unleashy long enough up there to retaliate and wear things down. And ultimately, it's not just about the long ultimate cooldowns, but heroes like Mars just need their first timings are bigger and more important. Without this BKB, they can only watch as Monica just kind of wanders into 5 heroes and dies. Zoobs was trying to set something up there, but they were far less urgent in bringing their full power to that team fight. Now the rest of the squad arrives. They pick off the Grimstroke again, but you can't really be satisfied with that. And that one was either just getting a little bit sloppy or a little bit tilted or fully misreading that situation. But you have to imagine there's 5 dire heroes pressuring that tier 1. Although, as I said that, Andros just wanders back in fully alone to finish knocking the building over. Realize they left something on their plate there. But you have to imagine that's 5 dire heroes sitting the tower there. And if that's the case, you really cannot afford to be sending in your carry, even a carry within rage, anywhere near that until the rest of the team is actually there. The Burrow Strike is no good as counter initiation. The Arena is no good as counter initiation if they're still teleporting in or walking over. And that's just been the story of this game. Just a couple of seconds behind can make so much of a difference when Andros is so hungry. They really want Monica again. Wait, they pull him back. That was an amazing Ice Shards by Unleashy. I thought that was a Chaos Rift for a second. Now they will follow up with that Reality Rift. And Monica's still alive, but definitely this team fight is on the back foot, although 9 comes through with a big epicenter. Hugh manages to armlet toggle, not the easiest thing to do in the middle of a sandstorm. It won't prolong his life for as long as maybe it should have given the difficulty rating of that play, but the Aegis will prolong his life, or at least give him another one. And Vorkor wants to pick off this Night Stalker, but now the rest of the team has fallen apart. It'll be up to Zoobs, try and get the job done with the Rolling Thunder, but they've lost vision, trying to follow Andros up the hill, but Andros, even with the speed boost from the Inkswell, is going to get away from this Pangolier, and they won't get anything, and in fact, Vorkor is even picked off on the back lines. No blink daggers even required. I suppose just showed his face, unfortunately, on the low ground for a second too long, and Areem and Hugh pick him off. So an out-and-out rout at this point, 11-28, and 8,000 gold league at just the 18-minute mark. How did it all go wrong so wrong so fast for Looney Melb? They did get the Aegis, but now they are fully hemmed in around their base already. You can see, look at this super aggressive vision. That's actually old vision. It's crazy how deep some of these wards have been, and I haven't seen them getting pulled up, but I have to credit the supports on the side of Yo Andros for being so proactive. Having that vision one step ahead of where the engagements are has consistently been able to catch Looney Melb off guard. And I don't know if that's something they'll sort of recognize throughout the game, that, you may not see all of these dire wards, but you know that you don't have vision, or you don't have Sentry Vision at least, and you know that your opponents are consistently getting the jump on you when you've picked a Mars, Pangolier, Sand King draft. You're not being able to make use of your big initiation spells. You have to identify that as a problem for your second game. Either need to commit more team resources to protecting the supports and helping them, compete in the warding game, if that's a problem that they can't go out to these spots to contest vision, or you just need to maybe pick a team that isn't as reliant on having the vision to initiate all the time, because it's gone very poorly for them this game. It feels like these heroes have been, stuck in the mire when it comes to their net worth, still all under 7k as their opponents leap up to 8, 9, and 10, and Reem gonna try and widen that gap, goes in completely without fear. Is the BKB finished? It is not, just doesn't care, doesn't even have the ultimate ready, and just fully soaks the combos of 9 and Vorkor, and now 9 under pressure, gets cycloned up. I'm gonna assume that was defensive, that was his own Yules, but it's not looking great for the team. Hugh eventually just collects the Sand King as well as the Pugna support, and now the Dire are all collected into a snowball to run down Vorkor. They really are just kind of waiting for the concession at this point, it feels like, as they kill 4 out of 5 Radiant heroes without very much effort at all. Again, the Grimstroke, the only one to take a dive. It's 5 deaths on the Grim and 4 deaths on the CK as the outliers for the Dire. Other than that, not much to say in terms of dubs for Looney Melb. They haven't managed to kill Andros at all the whole game. 11-0 and 8. 11,000 net worth at 20 minutes, 21 minutes. Has the BKB completed now. On top of that, Midas and a healthy stack of stats. So really fully abusing his dominance of the nighttime hours and starting to look pretty unbeatable in the daytime even. Similarly, when Reebnizel was able to complete this Aghanims in about a creep camp, I'm really not sure what's going to happen that could pull Looney Melb out of this hole. They might get a pick on the Tusker, but he just stops in place. That's enough to juke the spear. Okay, can't blink away from the precast Yules out of 9, and the team, Andros was considering a rescue mission. We'll call that off. It is just a Tusk. But I mean, ultimately, it is just a Tusk, right? Your enemies have committed a full team rotation out of the top lane, maybe realizing that they might be able to catch some retreating heroes, but they're hesitant to go into the dark without vision, as well they should be. And even if they maybe could have gotten something there, they let the opportunity slip through their fingers. Now, Andros Heroes here in numbers. They're back on the safety of the high ground. And yeah, I feel as though at some point you have to try and take a situation like that, right? If you're not GGing out of this game, I don't know if you can really put faith in just avoiding fights and farming your way back into this one. The deficit is so huge at this point. And the heroes don't even scale necessarily that much better than their opponents. This Ursa didn't go for the Battle Fury build or anything else that would sort of emphasize farm speed. And yeah, that leads me to believe that their way back into this, if there is one, is through taking just a glorious team fight. You can almost always find one, at least on paper, but will Yo Andros create the opportunity? Because it is kind of up to them to make a mistake at this point. In these elimination lower bracket finals, after coming so far, they really don't seem like the kind of make a mistake. Although Hugh, if that wasn't a mistake, just signaling that he's not going to be participating in this smoke, thank you very much. He has creeps to hit. Maybe after that early game, it's like, look, you know, if you wanted me to come to fights, you should have helped me farm earlier on, because I've got some creep quotas to meet. They don't need him. Ultimately, they find Samsara, and they barely need a second hero. Unleashy just kind of mows him down with the Walrus Punch, which will be back up momentarily, as will the Blink Dagger. They even re-smoke for the move speed and to try and keep track of where Nine's going. Where Nine is going is back down the hill with the Burrow, but they just roll up the hill, and they find Vorkwar. I mean, this time they didn't... Oh, they did actually have... They had a Dire Ward there again, so they've just been evading the Radiant Vision at all times, and you see the confused ping come out from Vorkwar. It's like, guys, I thought we dewarded this. How were they so fast to catch me on that hill? I was just trying to sneak in extra creep camp. I was just trying to make up the gold difference. How can I rely on this if we can't control our vision? But of course, as soon as you sentry ward one spot in your triangle, the obs moves to one of the different spots, and there's just not enough time on the map or money ultimately for sentries to keep everything clear, as Andros picks off Zoobs, was up there for a while trying to do something sneaky and split pushy, but ultimately barely put a scratch on this tower, and they don't even have a bottom lane tier 1 yet. They don't have any tier 2s. Monica is preemptively TPing out as he realizes he's the only Radiant hero left out on the map, and things are getting very dire for the Radiant. I mean, BKBs are up pretty much across the board at this point. Still no BKB on the Brewmaster, but Reem clearly just unconcerned with buying one. And to be fair, it's not been made apparent that he should be concerned. Very, very tanky hero, and they have to 100-0 stun chain you in order to prevent the key spell from going off. I'd take that gamble at this point. And it's meant that he's able to buy a Spirit Vessel and an Ags and, of course, a Midas to keep that late game gold rolling. So this is one of those worst spots to be in where you can't even really give yourself any faith of coming back into it without winning one of these seemingly impossible team fight engagements, because your opponents have just immediately realized their lead and their position of strength and just doubled down on it by all buying Midases. Instead of looking for a team fight, they're going to look for a gank on the most valuable hero on the map. Andros kind of sniffs it coming, blinks away. I don't know if there was any vision that time. That's just a dire sentry ward. For a moment, I thought, God, not again. But no, it's just some pretty rudimentary game sense. Bunch of Radiant heroes missing. You're the one farthest away from your team. You're the one in vision. Blink away, and they, again, just immediately lose track of him in the trees and can't really afford to go looking. So Andros slips through their fingers, as does the Tier 2 tower bottom. The noose continues to tighten here in game 1. Oh my god, how many more times can you do this to him? Andros is just intentionally messing with them at this point. Walks into the sandstorm and then blinks out before the damage tick hits him. And now they're going to follow up. They catch the Sand King on the retreat. The Yules will not save you. Is that a basher on Andros? No, it was just a stun from the Earth Panda. Really academic at this point. More Earth Panda rocks being thrown. Vorkwar the target this time. He will also go down. Andros still beyond godlike. More of a weather report or a status update at this point. He's been beyond godlike for a while. It's actually Zoobs who has a basher, so this Pangolier has been able to get something done in that top lane in terms of farm, but all it's meant is that he's joined his core players at this awkward 7 to 9k net worth mark, and Andros is close to doubling that. Lots of buybacks coming out from the Radiant. I'd call this a last stand, but it's really more just a last fall flat on your face. No one's really standing up for very long once the collected dire heroes get their hands on him, and Hugh gonna get thwacked away at by the Ursa in what's probably the most even position matchup between these two teams, but even so, the gap is considerable, and it's Monica who ends up going down without too much trouble. Probably all over bar the GGing at this point. Unleashy maybe overextending, does eventually finally give a kill back. Now it's 15 to 40. Remember when it was just 12 to 28 and that was still bad? That actually triggers a full retreat from the Radiant High Grounds. This game's going to go on a little bit longer, but that was a bunch of buybacks to secure a Tusk kill, and they did actually get Andros, so his Beyond Godlike streak was ended, but I mean, that's the kind of position we're in with this game, is the Dire can lose their most valuable hero on the map, and it just kind of doesn't matter. They could easily have called this game. They could easily have called this game 10 minutes ago, but they're going to fight on. And to be fair, with this much stakes on the line, why not? Your opponents might drastically throw. Your opponents might let you take this Roshan. Who can say? Worth a try, right? Of course, there is a Dire ward out the front of it, and Samsara, I'm sure, will attempt to de-ward it, but it has already been seen because the ward's on the low ground, so Samsara trying to make a swift de-ward of the high ground, not only does not find the obs, but the obs finds him. Bites the dust immediately under the combined attentions of Andros and Reem Nizzle, those two names that have been a curse on the House of Looney Melb this whole game. And obviously, the Radiant, they're going to hang around here and try and contest this. Their decision to contest consists of absolutely exploding turrets. They take this threat very seriously, and they annihilate that Grimstroke with all of their ults, but now they're just up on the high ground. BKB, TP away from the Brewmaster split, if you can, fellas. Zoobs does not have that privilege. And so by just showing that their ultimates are expended and delivering their position post-ultimate to the Dire, they just invite another bad fight upon themselves, and they surrender that Roshan after all. So, I mean, there's no right answer in that position. I don't think there is realistically any way for them to try and take that. But, again, at some point, maybe it's worth taking the risk of letting them be in the pit and saving the arena and the role to fight in the pit. Because if you're not fighting in the pit, if you're not taking that Roshan off of their hands, then you're just not getting back into this game. And maybe a lesser team would have given you space after losing their support, but definitely not you, Andros. They only see ultimates expended, and they immediately pull the trigger, even splitting their attentions as Unleashy and Hugh continue to thwack away at the Roshan, even as their more aggressive cores run down various hapless Looney Melb squad members. So that appears to be a shard on the Tusk, so that's the upgraded ice shards. Pretty solid. Big slow. And more importantly, another Aegis for Hugh, who is recovered nicely into this game, as you'd expect, and the team's been dominating for the vast majority of it. Any difficulties in the laning phase long since forgotten. Andros continues to hunt. A god no longer. Definitely still the big boy in this game. And Zoob's actually... their Dissolution of Godhood maybe going to cost Andros a little bit of divine threat here, as Zoobs is able to elude him. But Hugh sort of patiently waits. Zoobs able to anticipate that, sees that the BKB Piercing Reality Rift talent is online, and with a nice little bit of reaction blinks into the CK and denies that to him. So two heroes collectively fail to kill one Pangolier, but these are the kind of meager victories they've been reduced to celebrating. As Reem goes in on top, that's a really nice spear combo from Vorkor. Might step, no, not quite the epicenter as the Soulbind comes through. Brutal silence root combo completely cuts off Knight's contribution to that fight. The epicenter goes nowhere, and now the team fight looks like it might hit a dead end as well. Does still have the Burrow Strike to contribute. They're doing a good job of locking down Hugh. Zoob's going to help continue that chain of stun, but there's just no damage to follow up, and now it's starting to up. Although Zoob's, actually, they are wearing down some heroes. They trade Unleashy for Samsara, as has been the course for most of the game. This Pangolier is doing a tremendous body of work right now, but Andros has rejoined the fight from the back lines where he was absolutely murdering heroes. Vorkor, first victim. Toph actually claims that, as well as Zoobs, but it is the big dirty Night Stalker that's been wreaking havoc for most of this game. Some select words from the Master of Fell Inc. as to the relative hopes of Looney Melb in this game, their fortunes overall. And, I mean, look, it has been a stomp nearly woe to go. 9 going back in, but I don't know, really just trying to get any sort of spooked reaction out of Hugh here. Maybe a panic armlet toggle or something, but what it's going to be is a 3-hero rotation to cut off any retreat from the Sand King. And, I mean, they continue to say in this game, they continue to not call GG, they continue to push lanes out, they continue to defend the base. They continue to make moves on Dire heroes. But the gold gap just keeps getting wider. It's up 23,000 gold. The Midases are not getting any less valuable over time. I'm almost surprised they haven't built some on their supports at this point. But Tusk satisfied with just a Blink Dagger into Ags. Grim satisfied to just buy the wards, basically has an Aether Lens to make his game a little bit more comfortable. It's all about the cores here on Andros, and to be fair, they still have plenty of room to scale. Hugh in particular, picking up now Blink Dagger, Skull Basher, BKB, has the power treads, building out an Orchid. It's actually backpacked the treads to hold the Aegis, which is interesting. Often you see it would be, you know, the BKB backpacked instead for the second life, but you can understand the logic, especially when you have a Blink Dagger and Reality Rift. Maybe boots just aren't that important. Actually completes the Mage Slayer now. I love to see this. Really like this item. It is a niche pickup, of course, but at this point, the damage is all magical, right? Like, from all of these heroes, Ursa really just a non-factor in this game, and even Monica, of course, is getting a bit of magic damage. Actually, Diffusal Blade is physical damage, even on the Mana Burn. So yeah, everyone except Monica putting out a pretty magic-biased damage load. And, oh, okay, the initiation, actually, it will look like the Radiant was smoked up, but it's them who get found first. 9 is instantly vaporized by a combination of Walrus Punch and the Chaos Knight Phantasms, and they will try to punish the supports. They get Toph, they're gonna get Unleashing. No, Andros comes in, saves the day. Get off my support, he says, bashing them down. Reemnes are also here. They've easily mopped up the collected Radiant heroes, and they do not even lose a second of their own. Now they're going to move deeper into the base. I mean, these are mostly hero killers, so as soon as they see that the Pangolier has brought back, they blink past the tier 4 towers and bash Zoobs down. Real messages being sent here. Samsara refusing to concede defeat in the mid lane, skipping creep camps, gets a wave for his efforts. Trying to unleash, he just not really interested in fighting into this double totem combo, the Wraith Pact, the Nether Ward. There's a Rax dying bottom lane, but you don't need to see that. This is far more interesting. Unleashy just letting Samsara walk further and further down the lane, just kind of solo pushing, skip multiple creep waves now. Just kind of playing, toying, staying in range, basically saying, you can't go back as long as I'm here. Trying to keep vision on the Pugna, trying to keep him out of the trees. Samsara. Yeah, everyone's just watching this now. Everyone else is A-clicked on the base buildings. Pugna tries to channel, gets Walrus Punched, tries to run away, gets snowballed, tries to turn, gets Blink Dagger dodged. 1v1 down at mid lane. Oh, don't worry, Vorkor. This is all we're watching. Whatever you're doing, killing Raxes, that doesn't matter. This is what matters. Samsara gets a nice, healthy life drain off, but then eats a nice, healthy Walrus Punch. To the victor, the spoils. Mass tips. Come on. Me strong, says Unleashy. Yeah. Well, actually, not the Chads. You've got to at least beat up the Warrior Chads to preserve their identity. Oh, just to take their identity, rather. But, yeah. At this point, this is what we've been reduced to in this game. Both teams playing it out to the bitter end, or maybe the less bitter end. That didn't seem particularly bitter. That seems like some good-spirited fun. No fun over in the Radiant base, just death and screaming. 2 heroes already down. Pangolier straight outside the base and killed. Vorkor also decides to march in the meat grinder to see whether those blades are really sharp. I bet I could probably take him. He is killed. 9 is killed. Monica gets Toph. Yet another death of the Grimstroke. That's 8 now. Good job. Dies as well. No, actually, what am I saying? Monica's still alive. Samsara is pulled in and killed. So is mercifully the Ancient. At this point, we really do need to wrap that one up. So, Andros comfortably taking game 1 here of this series from Looney Mel. Big dub for them. The Night Stalker pick. Beautiful drafting. Just annihilates this Mars-Pango combo that Looney Mel were fond of. They are going right back to the drawing board on that one. The last pick, Sand King, really felt like it missed its mark from very early in the game, right? Like, the early on, the farming seemed fine, but as soon as 9 missed that opportunity to rotate bottom and top lane kind of wasn't in a position to host a rotation either, it really seemed like his game went off the rails as the Sand King went for the play on mid with the Epi. That didn't work out, and from there, it was just sort of a train of the spells are never aligned in terms of cooldowns coming together for the Radiant, and very quickly the gold lead sort of got to the point where that supposed teamfight advantage really didn't manifest. Instead, it was all the Andros and Reem show throughout. So we'll see whether that show comes back after this commercial break, or whether it is a bit of a reversal, a bit of a twist in the second half here. This is a best of 3, so all the potential in the world still for Looney Mel to bounce back. We'll see whether they can manage it after this short break, so don't go anywhere. welcome back everybody here to the AEL Dota 2 Uni League lower bracket finals. We just saw game one. It was a bit of a fireworks show, but a one-sided one. The volley of rockets was all from Andros and the UO Andros squad, and all of the explosions were felt harshly by Looney Melb. No less entertaining for that, especially the support bowl at the end of game one there, but, just like their Pugna, Samsara, Looney Melb probably going to be stinging a little bit after that one. That was some harsh treatment. Their draft got pretty swiftly overhauled and looked like a pretty comprehensive defeat for them. So they definitely need to come up with something a bit saucier here in game two if they want to try and extend the series and ultimately win it in a game three decider. I'd love to see them at least get that far. Having 3 games would make this feel like a pretty serious lower bracket finals, and we want to savor every game that remains here. Obviously, grand finals tomorrow night. One of these teams, the lucky winner, will go up against the Warrior Chads for the honor and the glory of being your Season 1 champions for Uni League 2022. But, for now, they must focus on the obstacle in front of them, which is, obviously the current opponent. Bans, same as Game 1, it looks like. Grimstroke also going to follow the patterns of the Game 1 draft. Looney Melb apparently... Actually, sorry, they are the same patterns in terms of Radiant Dire, but since the teams have swapped, that's going to be Looney Melb pinching the Grimstroke off their opponents. Now, will we see the Mars grabbed up in response? I'm not certain that it would be wrong to do so, right? We just saw the Mars kind of cop a beating in game one, but it's not that Mars the hero is unviable by any means. The game went pretty strongly against the kind of game that Mars likes to play, and that was a result of a pretty well-engineered game plan by UO Andros. Maybe they feel comfortable avoiding those same pitfalls if they pick it up, but instead they choose to deny the Chaos Knight. Not the worst thing in the world for either team, right? Like, both these heroes, even though it is sort of a lane combo, both of them are very effective on their own. So, I don't think that this is by any means going to trouble Looney Melb or complicate their draft that much, but it is just a bit of a blow, forcing them to show something different from the obvious, which I appreciate. Seeing even some extra time get eaten here by UO Andros. They're really making sure that they understand what they want, right? I mean, they have denied their opponents the Grimstroke CK easy combo, but they also have denied it themselves, and their makeup pick appears to be a Treant Protector now, given they played a Pos 4 Tusk last time, and a Pos 4 Tusk is sort of rotated out of the off lane into the safe lane once so in the early levels, you probably really want a range support and maybe a bit of a hard CC, but later on, once the laning phase starts to break up a little bit, the difference of rotating the Tusk into top lane didn't hurt as much, so some creative support movement that echoes what I've seen a lot of teams do with Tree specifically of late, since he follows kind of a similar profile, and he can also help the safe lane out if needed from the other side of the map with that living armor. So not going to fully anticipate this being a 5 just yet, but it would be a potent laning combo in its own right. Obviously, you can forego the living armor for the first couple of levels, take the nukes, and utilize Treant's, the unleveled Treant nuke, the 100 damage auto attack to bully an offlaner like Mars. But Mars Grimstroke, very, very powerful in its own right. Really, any hero that has a stun to follow up on the Mars, any sort of kill combo, your Mars is going to be all right in the lane of bullying the Chaos Knight. And I think part of the problem last game, or where part of the problem started for Looney Melb, was that their Mars was backed up not by this Grimstroke or the Pugna that they also picked early on, but by a Pangolier. It's just not as strong a combination, and faced up against a stronger kill lane, like, your Mars just can't be in a position where he is afraid to die by standing on the creep wave. Even if you're able to force a trade with it like they did early on, it just shuts down too much of how the hero needs to play the lane and how it flows from there into the rest of the game. We saw the items for the Mars be heavily delayed, and I just don't think whatever trade-offs they got by putting the Pugna safe lane or having the Pangolier in the game at all, even though Zoobs played a great game, I don't think it was really justified when you look at the results. So maybe going for a more conventional Mars combo here, I would not be sad to see it at all. They actually banned Dawnbreaker, which I haven't seen contested in plenty of time, which, makes me sad. I'm a big Dawn fan, have been since the hero was released. It's got its problems, it's got its counters, but I think the hero is exciting, and unfortunately we will not be experiencing that excitement in this game. We'll also not be experiencing Gyrocopter or Phoenix, or crucially, the Andros Night Stalker that was so impactful in Game 1. That's been banned out by Looney Melb as well here. So we, of course, know that Andros is more than capable of dominating the game on different heroes, but Night Stalker does have a pretty unique set of capabilities to try and deal with, especially when there's two high-level teams like this. The Vision game is so important. It really was UO Andros who dominated the Vision in Game 1, pretty much, woe to go, and you can't say that wasn't one of the biggest determiners of the outcome. So, denying one of those key vision tools, I like the approach from Looney Melb. They go back to their guns and they ban out the Necrophos, which is another very scary Andros hero. Banning out heroes that carry out of the off-lane, pretty good idea right now. We'll see what the follow-up is from UO Andros themselves. Their first pick of their second picking phase, they take the Pugner away. So teams getting into a nice little exchange of picks here. Obviously, they know what's good right now, but we're seeing them mix and match in different combinations, and possibly a Chaos Knight Pugner lane that's got some play to it as well. Maybe not quite as much as the CK Grimstroke, but Pugner being able to decrep CK does take some of the sting out of the double stun combo that Grim Mars offers, so maybe that by itself is enough to make this pick work. Certainly the strength of the Pugner that we didn't really get to see in Game 1 because of how fast things got out of hand is the mid-game team fighting, right? The damage reduction, we did see the Wraith Pact picked up and deployed at the very end of the game there by Samsara in Game 1, but I'm sure UO Andros will be hoping to get a lot more mileage out of that kind of play style by, not immediately losing all their lanes. And Venge, picked up by Looney Melb. Very interesting. Haven't seen this hero in some time, but it's a great way to cut through some armor. It's a great way to mess up the Pugner's positioning or the Treant's positioning. These are heroes that like to sort of lurk around the edges of fights. Don't really like to be in the middle of fights, and having a way to either bring heroes into the arena or get heroes out of danger or get heroes into trouble with the Grimstroke spells. The applications to swap are endless, and especially in this game. So I'm assuming this is going to be a Venge support. Venge Core had a little bit of time in the sun for a couple of patches, but seems to have fallen well back out of sight now. And Monkey King going to make that even more likely. Nice little core pickup here for fighting off most offlaners. Now, we probably haven't seen the offlaner yet for UO Andros. I don't think this is going to be offlane Tree or even an offlane CK, though it could be. I'm not sure how the CK matchup with Monkey goes. I'm assuming it'll mostly depend on the supports, but Monkey Venge sounds like a lot of trouble for most offlaners, if I'm being honest. And it's not even to mention Monkey Grim. If you have some sort of, if you have a couple levels in Inkswell, maybe make the cast range a little bit more amenable, you can pull some pretty nasty Primal Spring combos with that. Pull up into the Stroke of Fate, all the good stuff. So Looney Melb definitely doing an even better job of securing their lanes, but they're going to be playing into a Viper now, picked up by UO Andros, their fourth pick. That'll be something to chew on here in this final stage of bans. Haven't seen a Viper so far. Haven't really even thought about the Viper, except for maybe briefly at the end of Game 1 when mids were getting low on the ground. And it is true that both teams have again seemingly delayed their mid until last. You could argue that this could be a mid lane Viper, but I expect it's more likely that this is an off lane hero or even a support. I don't know that this is their mid unless this last pick, at the very least, it offers some flexibility if their last pick is potentially going to be exploited. I mean, UO Andros have again managed to secure the ultimate final pick of the draft for themselves. So you would think that since they got away with having second to last pick last game and still ran away with the mid lane thanks to Reemnizzle's Brewmaster, that they wouldn't be too concerned about that sort of thing. But never hurts to have a Viper in the back pocket, and their early game sieging looks fearsome right now, right? They've got so much sustainability between these tanky heroes, the Treant living armor, the Pugner being able to heal people back up with the good suck, and of course Chaos Knight and Viper, very formidable frontline cores. Viper great for sieging, Pugner great for sieging, whether or not he's a core. There is a Mars to defend against that on the side of Looney Melb. They have the Monkey King ult as well, so there's definitely some stuff to give you pause. But they can kind of just set up on these tier 1s and try and take them very early on, and then, again, this is a way to take control of the vision game and deny a lot of the value of heroes like Mars and a Vengeful Monkey. Can be a great vision hero, but if he is your core, as he seems almost certain to be in this game, it's much less appealing to have him just bouncing around the trees with the Primal Spring talents, just because of the potential for him to die, and at the very least the sort of wasted farm efficiency when you're also using your carry as a scout. So very interesting drafting situation again for Lunumelb here in Game 2. This last pick could be something transformative. Trying to think of what they might be gunning for. I think they just need another source of sustained damage. You don't want to have to always, or I don't know, at least single target damage capable of killing a core, because you really don't want to have to commit your Monkey King to start every fight. I don't think if he is your one position, but at the same time, I don't think you want to rely on just Mars and your spell combos to bring down your first target. You won't always be able to find a support Pugner to nuke. So, you know, what mid laner with burst damage? I mean, take your pick of them. There are some banned out now. We saw Storm, Puck, Quap, Brew, and Visage all removed there in the last couple of bans, but still plenty in the pool. Lunumelb really taking their time on this one. It could be like a Leshrac or something. It's going to be the opposite of that. They want to be the ones with the late game security. Last game, they felt a bit outmaneuvered by a team that had their number early game and then just bought Midas's. This time they say, well, we're going to make sure that we have late game potential. We have that inevitability. We have a Medusa. But now you've picked a Medusa into a Viper, into a Pugner, into a Chaos Knight, into all these heroes that can pretty heavily punish her for being a stationary hero in team fights, even after she's farmed, not to mention being able to hunt her down as a hero that's often slow to farm and very passive in the early mid-game. You even have the fact that the Reality Rift piercing BKB can always pull her out of position, even if she was in position to start with, trying to hang back. And you have a BKB piercing on-demand entangle, the root from the treant that can turn off the auto attacks, and you know, you just hang outside the fight until you see Stone Gaze pressed, and if your team looks like they're in trouble, you can just blink in and kind of make that point moot. You just tap that ultimate button, and even if you die as a treant, that's fully your contribution to the fight. So I'm afraid to say it, Lunumelb fans, I'm really liking the look of this UO Andros draft, and that is before they get to make a last pick here. I mean, we may see something different. Perhaps this is a support Monkey King, perhaps it's a carry Venge, perhaps things are going to be much more fast-paced than I'd expect. But Lunumelb right now, it seems like they have, under pressure, gone back to what a lot of teams go to when things are on the line, when the stakes are high, and you need to steady yourselves, which is just something very straightforward. You know what your game plan is when you have a Medusa, but the problem is that your opponents also know what your game plan is. And UO Andros definitely have the experience and the confidence and the Dota chops to punish you for it. They are really also taking their time here to make sure they have the best counterpick they can, and they go back for the Pangolier that was so ably piloted by Zoob's last game. They're like, yeah, that looked pretty good, says Andros, give me some of that. Picks up the Pangolier, nice flashy hero for him to carry out of the offlane. It will be a mid-Viper ultimately, especially with that Medusa in the game. You feel definitely great about piling on more resources to this Viper, especially if you're not going to make the Pugner a core. Very, very good at punishing the stationary snake and bullying her in the lane if she decides to go mid. So neither lane matchup especially appealing. The soft safe lane that Medusa kind of offers going to be easier pickings for the Pangolier, who can sometimes struggle in the early levels. And everything just looks pretty good for UO Andros. They've got Hugh back on the Chaos Knight. They've got very strong supports in the Pugner and the Treant. It's going to be tough to stop, but Lunumelb, they're on their comfort heroes in most cases. They are going to play a support MK, so it is going to be a mid-Venge for 9. I sniffed something like this. It just seemed way too passive to have MK Medusa as your cause there. So I do like that adjustment. I'm not sure how much of a difference it'll make. I don't know, again, that moving your Grimstroke to the safe lane and leaving a weaker support hero top lane with your Mars is really the way to go against a CK +1. We'll have to find out here, but Lunumelb, they have to hope it works out. They do not have a second chance after this. It is game 2 here in the lower bracket finals of the AEL Uni League playoffs for Lunumelb. It is elimination point, I suppose, the opposite of championship point, and Vorkor gonna have to really have a better Mars game. It wasn't his fault in game 1 necessarily for all the reasons we went into, but really has to have a captain's game here, has to put the Lunumelb team on his broad shoulders and carry them to the promised land of game 3 here. I'm sure all the fans of Good Dota out there in the chat tonight will be hoping that he's able to do so. But to kick things off, we do have 9 on the mid VS, rocking that Quelling Blade. We'll have to see how the matchup goes. VS and a Viper does sound like they could get a positive matchup out of it. A lot of minus armor to try and scythe through this Viper early game. Not a lot of hit points on the Flying Pest.
really relies on the corrosive skin to help out, but it doesn't provide armor anymore, and you're really sort of just a sitting duck against heavy physical damage. Nines, if you were confused about our lanes, don't worry, I was too. A little bit of psychological warfare going on. I'm sure the drafters knew all along what the lanes were going to be, but yeah, maybe Nine thought it might be playing a Monkey King game or something. Not the case. Zoob's going to be rocking that. Did a sterling job on the, we'll say, sort of melee utility support last game of the Pangolier, so hopefully going to be able to contribute just as much here. Get that basher up again on the MK and try and control fights. They do have the benefit of having a Grimstroke into a Pangolier. The last Pangolier was picked into that particular counter. Also the swap, also the, so various things that make the Pangolier's game slightly harder, but just Andros, especially for a core Pangolier, feels as though these are not deal breakers for the hero pick. Just wants to flex, wants to show his own skill on this very flashy hero, and can't blame him after game one. The Night Stalker, he did his best going, quintuple beyond godlike, but it is still at the end of the day here where you click on their hero and then you click on Void and then you kind of walk them down. And walking down is what's happening to Zoobs right now. Took level 1 Jingu, that's already skilled, so has to just try and shuffle away, but luckily no commitment to the Orb of Venom early on from the tree. Much more conservative item build. Still a good start to the laning phase for Yo Andros. And you can see already Andros managing to avoid the early stroke of fate and get straight onto Monica. Look how much damage this Medusa's already taking. 2 tangos. There's just one set of tangos here on Monica and a stick. Gonna have to rely on Samsara for the early regen and probably already start ferreting out some more if you possibly can, because, yeah, that is brutal stuff to just cop all of that early harassment from the Pangolier, and it's just going to be like that every time the Medusa walks forward. There's just not the threat that you get out of a CK Grim lane. I did really like the decision to take the CK away from the Grim, and I like it even more now that we went for such a more passive safe laner on the side of Ludimelb with this late Medusa pick. But Vorkor still formidable on the Mars in this laning phase, letting some bully of his own onto Hugh and Toph, and Zoobs getting a lot of Jingu stacks up. Maybe missing a chance to even proc it there on the CK, but maybe that's going to be a source of some dubs in the laning phase that Ludimelb really sorely need right now. As Monica, they as soon as they push Andros back, it's Unleashy who steps out of the trees and lays in the Medusa with the blast. Now they go on Samsara, an even softer target. The Mystic Snake's going to do a fair bit here. Andros has actually trapped himself in the trees, but it has trapped Samsara deeper in still, and it's going to be the Dire support who loses his life first. That's going to let Pangolier walk that one off. Andros, just as smooth as ever, really judges that well. Meanwhile, in the mid lane, it was a double kill for both sides. Didn't quite get to finish watching this engagement top before I got to see what was going on down there, but Viper's poison adds up, as does Venge's minus armor. 9 gets the first kill, as you'd expect, so a bit of a win to the Venge there, and will be about half a level ahead of Reem. We'll see whether or not that actually makes a difference and starts to snowball into more of an edge in this laning phase, but it is worth noting that so far the Viper did have a significant lead in last hit, so definitely not the worst idea for 9 to try and force a trade there if that was what happened. Yeah, definite good start in the lane so far to you of Andros. They're looking great right now, looking like a grand finals team, really challenging and pressuring this somewhat soft draft out of Ludimelb. Monica doing well again, as in game 1, to keep up on farm here, but we'll have to see how long that persists, or whether maybe they're able to make her make some stacks for the Medusa that she can build up her first items and have a better game. Like the Ursa really didn't get to play in game 1 with how fast things went south. So we would like to see what Monica can do as a carry, feeling like a carry in these lower bracket finals before potentially this team's run finishes in Season 1, at least, of the Uni League. Zreem flies out a a Wraith Band, I guess. Just maximizing those stats. Obviously, since they traded kills before, this laning phase has been pretty close. Speaking of pretty close lanes, also at bottom, constant action everywhere. Hugh looks like in a lot of trouble here. That slow from Toph may not be enough by itself. The 1-1-1 build on the Treant. Does it add up? The spear from Vorkor comes up just in time, so they do get that kill. Meanwhile, at top lane, Unleashy trading blows to Samsara once again. This time it's Unleashy who's playing the Pugna side of the matchup, but he gets a Grimstroke. Still not quite so favored. Andros actually comes in out of nowhere with the steel chair, with the swashbuckle. And in fact, now it looks like we're going to see a replay of that kill on the CK. Actually, Toph, great job baiting Vorkor in. Vorkor takes a ton of damage. Is this going to be the Mars's life? What a play! I mean, they tipped 9 more. Oh, Reem solos 9. Those extra stats and those extra levels in the poison starting to add up more quickly than the Venge can deal with. Even with the extra level, a full extra level on the Venge, I think, at the time of the kill, not good enough against the pressure that Reem is able to exert. You have to imagine just a couple of attacks coming downhill from the Viper is all it takes to really make the situation look bad. And just, again, what a cool bit of maneuver from the Treant, holding the salve, baiting in Vorkor, who, as we know, is desperate to make some sort of big general kind of play for his team, lead them into a better spot in this game too. And those couple of tower hits were more than he bargained for. No points in Bulwark, costs the offlaner his life, feeds a kill back to the Chaos Knight who had just taken a fall, and things continue to look good thus far for you of Andros. Monica just trapped up here under the tower. Even with the Radiant camp heavily blocked and contested, they're being able to hold this lane in a great spot. And okay, there's a rotation from Zoobs to the mid lane, and it brings down Reem Nizzle, but again at the cost of Nine's life. And it's Zoobs who gets the kill, so limited benefit to Nine's Venge here. Not sure how comfortable Nine is on the Venge. I'm sure it's not, you know, a case of not being able to play the hero well, but maybe not the kind of matchup that you love as a mid laner, right? Not the kind of hero where you're just constantly forced to take a death in these trades. It's just not as much play to this sort of hero as there would be to most mids that are popular these days. No, certainly no spirit hero, despite the name. When you don't have any sort of defensive tool or really way to outplay a Viper, and when you can't do anything about the Viper except face check its spells, that's a very tough hero to beat in the early game. So no surprise that Reem is once again taking charge here. But even more so, guess who it is? Andros, right? I've said the moniker is getting farm up here in the top, and that's true. But Andros is just dominating the lane with enough levels in the nukes now and the arcane boots, being able to dip in and out of jungle camps. Both of the ones on this side of the map have been blocked now because they realize that he's getting so much extra gold out of this. And Zoobs has come top with this DD rune. Getting active early has been his team's best player consistently across these two games, you might argue. And they're able to bring down Unleashy with just a quick Mystic Snake. Meanwhile, there's a play being made on mid. Nine might die again, but Samsara is here. They're going to try and make it another trade, and they will. Reem Nizzle going down to the tower shot. So once again, both supports really taking advantage of friendly buildings to do their dirty work. And once again, the two mid laners will exchange deaths cordially in the mid lane. A little bit of a level bonanza for these two underleveled supports, the two fives. And Zoobs in the top lane trying to bully Andros back a little bit. It's the level 5 Monkey King, has to be respected, but only to a point. Zoobs does know his limits. Engagements brewing everywhere except bottom lane, which you'd think probably favors the CK, but after game 1, I'm sure the Vorkor is happy to have a bit of space on the Mars as well. Andros trying to provoke something, just kind of rolling up on Monica's Dusa with this Pango, but holding the swashbuckle the entire time ensures that it's very difficult to make any sort of big play happen. Now they get him with the silence. Samsara just sneaks up their top, has skilled the Phantom's Embrace, and Andros actually is able to survive, manages to hop out of the way of the Stroke of Fate. Even great use of the shield crash, great use of all of the assets he had to his name there. I think there might have been a Fairy Fire usage as well. He's able to just heal up enough and damage reduction enough, and ultimately kill the Phantom, slide out of the way, juke the spell with his second movement ability. And that's the difference between having a hero that has these kinds of powerful reactive abilities to escape ganks and playing a hero like Vengeful Spirit in a core role where you are just dead to rights in that sort of situation. So Nine maybe a little bit jealous there, I'm sure, if you saw how Andros was able to get out of that one. And a big, big W to the team that bears his name. Hugh and Vorkor continue to farm in the bottom lane. Nothing more to repeat or report there. Nine in the mid has a bottled haste now, but still working on any item bigger than a Wraith Band. Looks like we're now going to ship out some power treads most likely. But Venge, yeah, definitely not the kind of early rotation hero that the last game Sand King was. I think that's safe to say. Also, if you can look, the Radiant are again starting to move their vision into the dire side of the map, and not the vision itself, but that little expedition might result in a kill on Monica, but it's a great boundless strike. Zoobs, what a player, coming through clutch, able to cancel the Rolling Thundercast, and that buys just enough time for Monica to slip to safety, but not Zoobs. Unleashy. Okay, Unleashy is forced to pay with his life. Zoob's able to pick him off. 9 comes through. Again, the core Vengeful, surprisingly strong, given what you might expect from the hero as a support. Finishes those supports off very quickly with the minus armor and physical damage, but Zoobs is lost eventually in return. And Andros feeling pretty strong himself right now, trying to wear 9 down. Not a very tanky core, it must be said, the Vengeful Spirit. 9 actually turns and blows up the Treant with an extra stun and jukes and jives, but cannot ultimately avoid the quite large radius of shield crash. So Andros, even looking to pick up an extra kill on Monica, did the Medusa stay too long here? Trying to survive on a tower, that's absolutely brutal. The whole point of that rotation was arguably to deny, I mean, not even arguably, was definitely in part at least to deny the kill onto Monica, and by dint of sticking around and trying to fight it out, they end up surrendering not only their safe lane carry, but their mid lane Venge as well, and it all goes into the pockets of their most hated enemy, Andros, on this Pangolier, looking to pick up right where he left off in game 1 on the Night Stalker with some big kills to his name. Forces Vorkor to rotate top, so the Venge going to go bottom now to again stare down the Viper as they had been doing in mid a few minutes ago. And yeah, things have really started to break down now. Lots of heroes in the mid lane though from the Dire. They understand the importance of this asset. They're going to defend it. But you might need a bit more active to defend it from a hero like Pugner. Unleash, you can just choose to keep walking up on the tower and blasting away at it. But in the meantime, Zoobs will go bottom. Nice swap combo from 9. Brings Reem Dizzle into the tower. That makes him easy picking for Zoobs. But it does mean that there are no more abilities to keep the Viper in the Monkey King pit. The Wukong's command somewhat wasted there. But ultimately, the bit of damage they got is enough to bring the Viper down. They might lose their mid tower for it, which would be a tough trade to accept. They teleport in who they can, and with Vorkor among the number, that is enough. Andros now in the bottom lane farming it up. Looking to go that Diffusal, obviously. This is a lot of the art of Pangolier, right? Like, one half is definitely flashy rolling thunder combos, but the other half is just knowing when to farm, when to fight, because your hero has relatively short cooldowns, and boy, it feels great to press rolling thunder, but it is important to keep up your item progression, as Reem reminds 9, killing the Venge and hurting that item progression. And now, the rolling thunder's still available. Andros is all the way in, gets silenced by the Phantom's Embrace, has to respect things and walk it back a little. Now gets soulbinded, but still hasn't pressed Rolling Thunder. So now with those 2 spells down, I'm sure Andros feels freer than ever if he didn't already to pull the trigger. But the Dire do a good job of vacating their own premises, leaving their triangle. So this Rolling Thunder is going to most likely hit nothing. They're trying to run down Zoobs. And oh, the hop can't avoid Andros. He's close enough to see where the Monkey King goes and seamlessly transitions the Rolling Thunder into that tree instead. Zoobs did the best he could, but it's not good enough. Goes down. In the end, it is just a support, so you could argue a little bit of space being created there, but it is space for the CK as well, who continues to maintain a lead, albeit slight, over the Deucer. Check out that net worth just to verify, and yeah, you can see, actually no, yeah, the Deucer is slightly ahead of the CK rather, but the Pangolier and the Viper ahead of the Deucer. In the Viper's case, well ahead, 500 gold here at 13 minutes. This is the kind of lead that Yo Andros proved that they can snowball pretty effortlessly in game 1, so I would be concerned if I didn't have a strong game plan for taking control of things back on the side of Looney Melb. Nine just kind of offering a high five to the void there. Oh, Monkey TP's in top. Zoobs is on a tree, though. This is not an attempt to discourage the team fight or the tower pressure, at least straight away. It's a chance to get vision, and it's a chance to set up. The Wukong's command is fully ready. The arena's ready as well. They all start teleporting. They go to walk back, but Reem Nizzle won't be able to escape. They throw down the arena. In fact, Hugh wants to fight. They all want to fight. They're all coming top on the Radiant, but it's going to be too slow. They're going to lose both these core heroes now. Nice opportunity. Or are they actually? The arena fades, and Hian's able to slide backwards. They do lose Reem, and they do walk the Pangolier forward into the Soulbind. Hugh finally goes down, and Andros, realizing maybe he bit off more than he can chew, even with Unleashy there in theory to give him the good suck, that might not be possible. Andros rolls deeper into the fight, looking for more kills. It is a 2-1 fight in the favor of the Dire right now, so a pretty big accomplishment for them. Really nice spell usage, and also a little bit of overconfidence, perhaps, from the side of Yo Andros. A rare mistake in this series, but they kind of pulled the trigger on that team fight way too early, and Hugh, in particular, seemed very eager to fight. Like, that's one of those situations where they're probably not just making an opportunistic two-hero play on your mid-Viper if you're pushing the tower. I suppose the Chaos Knight was standing out of sight for most of that, so perhaps it was one of those instances where you thought that they only thought there was one Viper hero up there, but just as the Dire, just as Lunimel respected the possibility of multiple Radiant heroes, so they probably should have respected the chance of a full team rotation. Well, speaking of brazen rotations, Toph walks in the mid lane and just overgrowths 9. Says, you can't be here. Just exactly walks up and just says hello in all chat. Just walks up the hill and ultimates 9. I suppose as a mid laner, you feel, again, confident, but this is not just any mid laner, right? The Vengeful Spirit, even if you had a chance to escape before the after the end of that entangle for a moment, you're not going anywhere. You didn't even have a hero there to swap in and sacrifice for your own life. So they just get a completely free and very easy looking kill on the enemy mid, and things are really out of control now, at least in terms of that positional matchup. Reem Nizzle 2,000 gold ahead in terms of net worth on his opposite number. That is the entire difference between these two teams right now. Alarming stuff. Oh, Reality Rift being cancelled, I suppose. We'll see here. They really want to make something happen. Zoobs and Vorkor are sitting back. The arena, Wukong's command combo worked well for them before, but the tower goes down. They ping the tower, the tree that Zoobs is on, so they know where the Monkey King is. But with the tier 1 taken, there's just not necessarily a lot of reason to fight there. They don't have the vision up yet, Yo Andros, that they've been so good at fighting under across Game 1 and most of Game 2 so far. And so they decided it's just not worth it without full knowledge and vision of enemy heroes. And right, they are to not fight there, right? Like, that's definitely something that I think Lunimel would accept from them at this point if that sort of trade was offered, or that sort of opportunity to turn things around was put down on the table. And so they just don't. And instead, Andros will continue to poke and prod and chip away at their confidence and their pride, and at Zoobs' hit points in the mid lane and in the creep wave he was farming near. Monica is getting space, that's a positive. But still a ways off even this Manta style, and Medusa really, the first 2 items at least are just for farming, you'd say, more or less. You definitely want to get 3 items, even 4 items before you're comfortable showing up to fights or seeking them out with your team. And yeah, Monica's just going to have to keep working away at that. At least you can take comfort that this Chaos Knight is, again, kind of being hung out to dry. Keeping up with the other cores, but definitely as like a third cousin. Definitely not one of the 2 primary farmers of this team, despite being given priority in that safe lane as Andros lurks behind the mid-Viper, this time as the big threat. Unleashy, dewarding dangerously. Not punished for it. Again, just no immediate reactions. Hesitancy, for better or worse. Okay, this time it's for better because they immediately find a much juicier target. Zoobs been doing a great job all series, in particular at providing vision and contesting the vision game, which his team has otherwise been, and quite behind on, and scouts out a lonely Andros there, satisfied that he is isolated. They pounce and kill that very valuable, very farmed Pangolier. So great play from the side of Lunimel, definitely showing life here. But how many more of those are you going to get? Can you rely on just these sorts of pickoffs to flip this game on its head? It's still just a 2k gold lead, so at least it's not getting worse quickly. And the Medusa is also scaling. Again, they do have much better late game inevitability here, but I still worry about a particular timing because the CK and the Viper and the Pangolier will almost certainly, without question, find themselves in a spot where they're ready and excited to fight before the Medusa is. And Vorkor, well, they're always excited to fight Vorkor if they can get on him before the arena's cast, but he blinks up the hill away from them. This does put him out of position for the arena, though. There's the Stone Gaze by Monica instead. That's going to be the thing responsible for controlling up the CK initially. They can't even get Zoobs in the meantime, so effective it is. And Unleashy dies on the back of the fight, which is more important than you might think. That damage reduction and the life drain or the life give are pretty impactful to this Radiant team, and they prove it by all dying. Granted, by the end of it, it was a 3v5. But that's a big win. I mentioned they'd been able to hold the goal lead mostly stable, and now they claw some of it back. That was definitely better than, I mean, sadly, I want to say anything that they got up to in game one, so congratulations to them. Apologies. So, as I was saying, 9 in the mid lane now on the Vengeful. And pushing away at this creep wave. On bottom lane, this looks like there's a tower defense happening. And yep. Maybe not yet, but okay, it's just a tower siege happening. They're actually not defending. Instead, they're smoking the Medusa. This is such a better play. And again, this time at least there's vision of it. They managed to scout the smoke thanks to 9 moving across. So now it looks like they will defend their tower at bottom lane. Andros is going to be the first one in, and they're going to take that opportunity again. Slight overconfidence. I think that's the second time this game that we've seen a Radiant hero just kind of wander forward a little bit. Just gets, I'm not going to say gets a bit lost in the game, because the team were showing up. You can see Hughes there. The whole team was just a couple of steps behind, but the decisiveness, we saw a little bit of it at the end of last game. Vorkor definitely feels himself on this Mars. Definitely a veteran player of the hero. Understands how to make the most of those decisive initiations, and as opposed to the end of last game, when just exploding one hero really wasn't enough to get them back into things, this game, it more than is. And, you know, Toph can throw a little bit of a taunt here back and forth and act like this is still game one, which was just a complete stomp start to finish. But that's not been the case so far here in game two. There are much more signs of life for the Looney Melb lineup. And you and Andros have to be careful about how many of these kills they just give away like that. Especially on their big star core player. I mean, Andros definitely is taking more of a backseat this game, at least so far on the Pangolier, not being the, you know, the front runner on farm and in kills like he was on the Night Stalker, but even still, not the hero you want to be dying if at all possible. And I mean, that's the hero that they're targeting so far. He's as vulnerable as anyone. If Vorkor just snaps off that really quick Spear Arena combo, there's no time to cast a Rolling Thunder, and I don't know if he had the shard for roll up available, but didn't get that off either. Does have it now, though, and will definitely be vigilant for such deaths in the future. That smoke's immediately scattered. Zoobs is so good. They must see him break it, and they must realize instantly that he was up there. But he just jumped up on that tree and then just jumped away. So clean. I don't think that smoke was even under vision. Maybe they were seen in the mid lane or something, but I think that was just some intuition and a bit of good luck, and immediately realizes what's up and departs. So this Monkey King support has been so valuable. They truly did. They identified, as I'd said I'd hoped in game one that they would think more about the vision as an explicit component of their draft in game two and give themselves some more tools. And they have done so, and again finds 2 heroes with the tree vision. Immediate jump by Vorkor. Look at the difference between a Mars with the vision advantage and a Mars when his team has no vision spells, is operating under Night Stalker Darkness, and is getting heavily outwarded. This game they've done a great job of mostly defending their territory. And, you know, there's this one deep Radiant ward, but it didn't really lead them to a great team fight thus far. And wherever this Monkey King goes, they have vision superiority, and it's turning into kills. Kill after kill after kill being won here as they start to build momentum on the side of Looney Melb. Could we get a game 3 after all? They're definitely working on a gold lead. You can see how that gold lead has been built, just a couple of these fights, and now they're going to take down this mid tower, expanding on that lead. They're actually at a pretty considerable tower disadvantage until recently, so the fact that they've kept up in gold is an even bigger win in light of that. And it seems like they're, you know, last game I said it almost worked out for U of Andros to sack Hugh on the Chaos Knight, just because the Chaos Knight's not the hero that's going to be strong first. So they're able to use earlier timings on the heroes that were doing well to take control of the game and then catch up on the CK as insurance. This game, it is the CK leading the way for them and the Viper, but those heroes just take a little bit longer to come online than, say, the Pangolier would. So it seems as though they've been forced into a more passive role by their own draft here. And I'm sure that there will come a time when these hero picks do start to shine more brightly, but for now, bit of a farm fiesta for your Andros. Maybe just licking their wounds as well. They did have a pretty considerable change of fate from how the start of the series went. So I can imagine them just sort of taking pause, taking stock for a moment. Would not blame them. Andros still working on that Blink Dagger. It's taking him quite a while here, and it looks like it may take him a while longer. You'd hate to take any more deaths in these fights, but it's past the point where he can really afford to protect himself right now. He is definitely a tertiary core for real this time, not just carrying out of the off lane. And Vorkor, if anyone is looking to be the one to play that style of game on that signature Mars, definitely a bit of an inversion from game one. So, Zoob's working on, Boots of Bearing. I mean, the items haven't been the important thing about this monkey play so far. It's definitely been the movement, the scouting, the activeness. Like, it hasn't just been, oh, I'm sitting on a tree all day, I'm a ward. It's been constantly breaking smokes, finding kills, stunning heroes at clutch moments with Boundless Strike. Actually has been found on the trees. It gets off the trees onto Andros, I think. I'm not sure whether that was a forced dismount from the tree or, you know, maybe sniffed that there was a gank cap hanging, but actually the heroes were coming from the other direction. So Zoobs just jumps down in front of Andros and Unleashy and finds his doom, but does also create a bit of space, I suppose, for his teammates to get set up on the bottom side of the map, making sure there's no vision covering them, and they're just going to start setting this tower. I mean, Monica is by far the most farmed hero in the game at this point. It's really just exploded in farm, got all the space that was needed. That ward in the dire triangle really didn't do much in terms of any concrete advantage. Just let you watch how far the Medusa was getting. And now that she's up to the Skadi advancing on the Butterfly, it seems tricky for Chaos Knight and Viper to catch up. I went to great lengths to explain how I like them in the matchup, but I did assume they'd do a better job of containing Monica. But I think those first few tower defenses from the Dire kind of weighed more heavily on the scales of this game than U of Andros expected at the time. Hugh really has a lot of responsibility in this game so far, has been farming now, has Blink Dagger, BKB, Armlet, building towards, I'm assuming, a Mage Slayer or similar is on his way out. Explodes Samsara instantly. Now goes in deeper. Going to get arrested by the Stone Gaze, as is Andros. But Andros managed to get the Pangolier Ball on top of the Deuces, so even gets a free knockback out of that. Does a great job of mostly negating the Stone Gaze. But the Stone Gaze, unfortunately, it's so hard to fully take its impact away from the fight. It forces a disengage from the Chaos Knight, and he can't get back in. And that's already all she wrote. This Medusa, if they're not able to bring her down completely at the start of the fight, then that is, by definition, an overcommitment. And they completely mop the Radiant up. So this game, the first game, there was so much fighting and fighting and fighting to establish a definitive lead for U of Andros. This game, it's been more of a farming game, more of a waiting for your chance game, and this is what it's come to. When they finally do try and take another fight, they just get crushed even more easily this time. No real heroics needed, just pressive the button from Monica, the Stone Gaze ultimate, really bullying the team. The Pangolier counter was insufficient. And at this point in the game, it's, for the second game in a row, it's starting to look like a lackluster use of the final draft pick. Obviously, Andros hasn't been doing poorly on this Pangolier, but, I mean, 9 wasn't necessarily playing a poor game of Sand King in game 1. It just, you know, didn't work out strategically for the team in the way that you really kind of need your last pick to do. And once again, Look at this gank squad. Look at Zoobs here on the MK. You get the feeling this hero is going to get banned if there is a game 3, because this has definitely been the difference maker. This MK pickup now sporting those boots of bearing, the drums boots that were added somewhat recently. Great item on the hero for support MK. Loves the mobility, loves being able to help the team. And they are scouting the 2 supports, knowing that their own lives are pretty cheap. Making sure that they have a vision advantage. Clearing the way for a bigger move by the rest of the team. You can see Samsara moving behind Vorkor. I assume Vorkor was also smoked, maybe broken on the Viper there. Ultimately, it doesn't matter though whether or not the Radiant know their intentions. It's kind of at the point where they feel confident regardless. 9 is up to Ags Deso on this core Vengeful. This was their mid laner, remember? And even after a bunch of deaths early on, kind of like the CK last game, this is the kind of hero where taking all those deaths early doesn't really affect you that much. It doesn't really matter. Here is still a ball of stats. You're always going to be playing with your team. You don't need to be strong enough to like survive individually out on the map. It's not about that. And you're able to just buy these useful supportive items. And the very nature of the hero means that they're not going to be able to completely remove you from the team fight. You know, especially with Sags Online. Focus firing the Venge at the outset really doesn't seem like it's going to help you much. You need to find a way to bring down Monica, but this is not the team that has a swap. In fact, they're playing against a swap, so even if they get Medusa out of position, it's not really going to favor them. And they give 9 now the Psychic Headband that Monica just farmed up. So there's going to be an even longer range on that level 3 swap. It's a gigantic potential save, but Monica is on the front lines as a core. Swaps in Unleash here and just takes out the Pugna instantly. So that's removed as a potential option for defense. Are the Radiants smoked in their own base? They are. They're trying to get some sort of wraparound, or they mostly are. I think the CK missed that smoke, and I mean, whatever they were planning, they're just a little bit slow about it. Their racks are already gone, and the Dire safely retreat from their base. Vorkor blinks forward, doesn't get as far as he thought. That creates an opening, perhaps. Hugh gets in there. They kill off 9 immediately, but of course that illusion is right there. They do bait out the Stone Gaze, but it's not really a bait if you can swap in your enemy core. Hugh dies. It looked so good for them briefly there. And of course, Zoobs is now on the backline, isolating the rest of the team from the Pangolier, who has waded into the fight. That Wukong's command just... You know, Viper's not the most mobile hero at the best of times, and he's completely trapped on the high ground. Had the DD there, they thought that was their chance to make a last stand, but as Hugh says, the game is hard at this point. They just call GG. What a contrast between Game 1 and Game 2. Not only in how it ends, this time just a snap GG call. Very clear that they're not coming back against this Medusa. But also, you know, clearly in the course of the game, Looney Melb there, I didn't favor their draft, but more full eye. They easily managed to secure control of the mid-game with a couple of tremendous team fights, and all it took was a little bit of extra vision with the help of a monkey up in the trees. It was definitely worth, in hindsight, having that as the support, even if it made the lane a little bit harder for the Mars. Doesn't matter in the least. They were able to fully exploit that hero in the mid-game and set up a ton of space for the Medusa to completely out-farm and win. That'll take us to a Game 3, but, of course, the players and myself need a breather, so we'll be back after this short break.
welcome back everybody for Game 3 now here of AEL Uni League Dota 2 Season 1 Playoffs, Lower Bracket Finals, Looney Melb versus Yo Andros. It is, of course, the final match of the night, final game of the match, and Yo Andros, having secured Game 1 in triumphant fashion, had to taste a little bit more bitter medicine, had to come back down to earth there in Game 2, brought low by a Medusa draft out of Looney Melb, beautifully executed in its own right. And so now we will play a decider to see which of these teams will advance to face Warrior Chads in the grand finals tomorrow. Yeah, that's right, tomorrow. Only a 24-hour gap between these teams, so hopefully this isn't too grueling for them. Obviously, that's usually not a consideration when it comes to Dota players. We're all used to playing big marathons, 12-hour Dota days or something, on the weekends or whenever for tournaments. So likely not to be a question of endurance, perhaps mentally, perhaps in terms of the drafters in particular. They've each had some good and bad moments in this series so far. We'll see whether or not they have many ideas left in the old tank to try and, tip the balance in their favor at this most critical hour. Arguably the most important game of their season, at least so far. They're hoping that it will only end up being, say, the third or fourth most exciting and important game of their season, if they can put another couple on the books tomorrow night. But that will require a stronger opening draft. And again, CK and Grimstroke have been two very important heroes this series. The partnership has been split up again, but after that game after game 2, you have to say that probably the Chaos Knight is the hero with more to do to justify itself. The carry, CK, just was not able to come online in time to be truly effective against the fast-paced draft out of Looney Melb, and they've gone back to the same setup again, this time again opening with a powerful Grimstroke Mars combo, threatening that is their offlane, forcing Yo Andros to consider and respect that possibility. But both times so far, Looney Melb have proved happy to pivot and put Zoobs on a more flexible melee support hero like the Pangolier or the Monkey King. The Monkey King now being banned, as I anticipated, was just too instrumental for Looney Melb to get away with it again in Game 3 after how much it helped them in Game 2. So that's been removed. Storm's been removed. Yo Andros have a pretty clear plan, but they also will not get to play with the Night Stalkers. So both teams taking out these vision manipulating heroes, trying to prevent either team from getting that clear advantage in terms of reads on the map, because both games that has really dictated the flow of things. And Yo Andros, I'm not sure whether this means they need to get a different secondary core to complement the Chaos Knight, or whether they need to build the Chaos Knight differently or lane the Chaos Knight differently, but that last game, it just did not have the impact they needed out of Hugh. Played great both games, Game 1 and Game 2, but the difference was stark between dominating the lane in Game 1 with that Grimstroke pairing, and in Game 2, spending most of his time just passively farming, and then still not really amounting to anything in the team fights with the tools arrayed against it, right? Especially when you first pick the Chaos Knight, you can't really expect it to be your unopposed hard carry of the game. I mean, it worked out in Game 1 because they were able to secure farm across multiple core heroes, but when that's not the case, I do worry a little bit for Yo Andros. But I'm sure that they're taking that into account. They're taking it into account at least by banning the Medusa. Once again, Necropho's banned, Dawnbreaker banned. Starting to feel that these are all Andros heroes, and it makes me upset that we haven't seen core Andros Dawnbreaker. Feels like I need that in my life, but will not be on the table here, at least for this series. If Yo Andros are able to make it through to the grand final with a different pick, then maybe we'll see it busted out. But they're going to bust out the Venge instead. I don't know whether they're going to take a leaf out of Nine's book and play the core Venge. That actually ended up vindicating itself very nicely. I will say, I wasn't sure about the pick. Was legitimately just uncertain of how to read it. Has been a while. Early game looked rough against the Viper, but as you'd expect, kind of the advantage of playing this kind of less greedy mid laner just kind of came right back into things, and by the end of the game, it doesn't take much out of your mid laner to enable a Medusa, especially when the Medusa has been able to farm basically unopposed for a good chunk of the game. Just adding that the aura and the minus armor and the position manipulation of the swap was all it took. A little bit of minus armor from the Deso on top of things. So Yo Andros, they decide they want some of that action. They grab the Venge for themselves. Now having a very aggressive trio of heroes here, so that's nice to see. Could even potentially aim for a CK Venge lane. I don't completely hate the idea. I feel like there's probably a way to exploit the short range of those heroes, but
you know, at least it's hard to go on either one of them when they both pack stuns and they collectively offer so much physical damage in the laning phase. Tusk obviously no slouch in that department either, so their options are well and truly open, whether or not they decide to run this as Venge Core. And the Phoenix slips through the draft. That's been banned out in this series at least once. Looney Melb, they spy the opportunity. They have the Egg Cup, the Egg Holder combo. The Arena plus the Supernova. Going back to some of the overpowering team fight that they mustered in Game 1. But remember, Game 1 was when they just kind of got steamrolled very aggressively by a bunch of low cooldown, aggressive, tanky heroes. Now, Phoenix is a great antidote to tanky heroes, which is probably why it copped a ban. You know, the percentage-based damage with Sunray, very welcome. Obviously, just in general, great for turning around fights, especially when both teams are tanky. But it's still a pretty soft hero in the early game. It's still very team fight oriented. It's still very cooldown dependent. It's very exploitable by positioning-based spells and stuns. If you don't hit that egg, if you're not already in position at the start of the fight, or if you are initiated on, things can go badly for the Phoenix player. So we'll have to see who that is going to be, whether it is going to be Samsara, who's been rocking the 5 so far for Looney Melb. But, you know, given how things have gone so far, maybe it's going to be Zoobs. It seems maybe like the long cooldown hero would be not so much the style that Zoobs has been playing, but definitely the kind of having the softer laning support, the weaker laning support in the Mars lane has been their style so far. Another hero that's been neglected this whole series, but definitely been on the mind, Void Spirit, gets picked up here, not waiting until the end of the draft to secure what is ostensibly their mid laner. For Looney Melb, they're happy to pick it up now, and they're not afraid of what might come their way. Brewmaster is the pick. Worked well enough for Reem in Game 1. So Yo Andros have been allowed to and have decided to seemingly go back pretty hard to what worked for them in Game 1, right? Like, so far, the only difference is we've substituted a Vengeful Spirit for a Grimstroke, and those obviously aren't quite the same heroes, but it's not as though there was some big Grimstroke Soulbind combo that was truly unique, that was important in the first game, or like they desperately needed the double stun combo. I think Venge Chaos Knight is probably nearly as good in the lane, and certainly if they do decide to put a softer support like the Phoenix in the top lane with the Mars, it could get dicey depending on how the skill points are allocated, depending on how many of the Phoenix cooldowns you can bait out. You could have the opportunity to once again set back Vorkwar, who really has been, you know, it's obviously the captain and draft of this team, clearly has a big part to play in terms of the in-game shot calling as well. And even if he's not the one calling the shots, his hero has to be the one making them in most cases. So winning that lane is so crucial, and it's good to see them invest in it with some more fighting supports. View of Andros wouldn't even mind them rotating some heroes over early as they did in the previous game. Now they are going to go back and try and secure their off lane, which has been left till the end of the draft. Lots of heroes available. They ban Juggernaut. Looney Melb remove Pudge and Sand King. So this is the Andros show, as you'd expect at the University of Andros. Andros finally being given full draft priority to pick his hero absolutely dead last, and both teams banning around it. Unless this is a bait and switch and it's going to be offlane Venge or offlane Brew, but we'll have to see. Pangolier doesn't do quite as well in this game, even though that's still on the table. Yeah, you feel as though against Phoenix and Void, and especially the Grimstroke, picking the Pango into the Grimstroke really didn't work out for them. I don't know if they'll be brave enough to try that again. So what else is on the table? Timbersaw seems questionable. Again, here, lots of evasive heroes, lots of heroes that are capable of kind of making his contribution less relevant, just being off the map for a few seconds while nukes go out. But a lot of other competent offlaners are removed from the game, and now the PL's being picked up. I wonder whether they can get away with something like an offlane Death Prophet, because it does feel like the opportunity might be there to really bulldoze some towers early on, but they go not quite for that. The offlane, I'd assume Bloodseeker, definitely a carry out of the offlane kind of pick. Andros snaps that one off. Not much hesitation at all. So whether that's because that's a preferred Phantom Lancer counter that they're pouncing on after seeing Monica's pick, or whether it's because they just had this pick in mind all along, whether this is a pocket strat they're busting out. It's hard to say, but that's the pick they're going for. That's going to be the pick that Andros and the University of Andros as a whole are relying on to push them over the line out of this difficult matchup with Looney Melbourne into the grand finals tomorrow night. All the chips are down now. All that remains is to play this game out, and it's been a thrilling series so far. I'm really excited to see what these two teams can do. We will find out soon enough. So, as we get into this game, I will thank the sponsors one last time, just while we're here, because without them, we would not be able to enjoy such beautiful finals Dota here in the AEL Uni League. First and foremost, Predator, our PC parts sponsor. Conquer new worlds with Predator Gaming today. Predator are the gaming PC partner of the AEL, so conquer new worlds with them and no one else. They put power and precision in your hands to elevate your gaming experience in every way. So thank you, Predator, for delivering quality and performance across all of your products and parts. Furthermore, AOC offering the best viewing experience to go with those computer parts, not only in Dota, but also in League of Legends. They have launched the Aegon Pro AG275 QXL, which is the first ever monitor crafted for League of Legends with assistance from the creators of League of Legends, Riot Games. So, if, again, you are a LoL enjoyer, like good old Monica... Where are we? I've lost track of the carry player at the worst possible time. A LoL enjoyer, then you can purchase the Aegon Pro AG275 QXL at au.aoc.com today and experience all of the optimizations that it possesses for games of this genre. Furthermore, you can also check out Rig. What it takes to win. Their headsets deliver superior audio for competitive gamers and streamers at all levels, so join the Rig team to enhance your gaming experience. I don't really know what other enhancements you could have to this gaming experience, but maybe you aren't participating in the AEL Uni League playoffs, so you need a little bit of an extra hit, and getting some nice audio quality would provide that. These players do not necessarily need it. I'm sure they're taking advantage of the bounty of our sponsors, but they are living the dream right now. They are in it. They are live in an elimination game in the lower bracket finals. Game 3 of the series. Vorkor and company have dragged it back. They have to be riding high off that Game 2 win. So hopefully that emotional momentum can carry them through, but let's not forget how scary UO Andros looked in Game 2, and it feels as though, I mean, I admit I tipped them for Game 2 and they lost, but this draft does seem like they have tried to course correct. The last game, it seems like they felt they weren't able to contain Monica, kind of just ran away with things on the Medusa. This time, they have gone for a more active draft. It will be interesting to see how this Bloodseeker Tusk lane goes into PL Grimstroke. Not a laning setup I can admit to having cast before. I'm not certain whether they feel like that was a big win for them or whether the real impact of this Bloodseeker hero comes later on. Certainly, it's going to be very useful for running down Nine's hero and taking away Nine's influence in the game as a Void Spirit. Just kind of a neat counter to these elusive Spirit heroes, are very spell-dependent. And very movement-dependent as well, obviously. Just slap a Rupture on him, and that Astral Steps kind of ceases to be an impactful teamfight spell unless you want to give up your life to use it. And straight into things with the Blood right in the top lane. On bottom lane, Zoobs will be on the Phoenix, so maybe I won't curse the player here, but perhaps a somewhat quieter, more supportive role for Zoobs this game after 2 games of really dynamic, active play, especially in Game 2, really doing a tremendous job, but won't rule out their contribution to the Vision game. Obviously, Phoenix can get around and play some sneaky wards with the help of Icarus Dive, and that the kind of game sense that Zoobs has displayed will definitely be instrumental in setting up the team fights they'll need to take in order to win. I expect Zoobs to be sticking pretty close to Vorkor for the majority of this game, and I mean, Andros was all over Monica's Medusa during the laning phase, or at least the start of the laning phase in Game 2. It was more that the lane, they weren't able to sustain that kind of pressure after the lane broke up. They had some deep wards up in the triangle they intended to keep the pressure on. I think it was more that the team composition that didn't quite come together for them, and taking a few losing fights, but I'm sure they'll just decide to not... They say to themselves, well, we don't need to make those same mistakes again. There was nothing constitutionally wrong with our play. We just need to not take slightly greedy team fights onto towers. We need to give a bit more respect to the side of Lunimel. This is a finals team. We need to take them seriously. We need to not give them easy chances to build a lead on us. And maybe we need to have a better plan than just farming this Chaos Knight indefinitely. It'll be interesting to see what itemization Hugh chooses to go for after that game too, because it did seem a bit like that was part of the problem. So far, though, no problems for them. Smooth sailing. Bloodseeker getting tons of farm up in the top lane, as you expect for Andros, and Reem similarly taking charge in the mid. 9 able to secure that rune with the help of the Remnant. Reem not quite able to fully wait out the duration, decides just eat the nuke instead, and Void Spirit did secure the water rune there. No bottle up yet for the Brewmaster, who, will be shipping it out very soon, but that's going to certainly help 9 scale into this mid lane matchup more, and I imagine that at some point we'll probably take control of it unless there is a rotation. There was a really helpful rotation to the mid lane in game 1 when Reem was on his brew by the Grimstroke. This time it would probably be Unleashy on the Tusk, who you'd expect to be making that sort of play, but Venge is also capable, and again, having a second more dynamic support could be the difference maker here that puts Andros back on a winning footing. It's the University of Andros, the team, but also Andros, the player. Zoob's able to swoop away from that one. But Andros is the one who secures first blood. I bet on the wrong horse. Monica trades immediately for Unleashy, but that was narrowly a first blood to the side of Andros, of University of Andros, killing off Samsara's Grimstroke. Not the most consequential kill, both carries staying alive, both carries picking up a kill bounding on the enemy support, but at the bottom lane, the Phoenix not dying is helping Vorkor stick around, and a lot of resources have been expended here on the side of the die. You can see it's the Mars effect, right? He just wears down opposing laners, and in this case, also Toph on the support, although the regen is there, might choose this opportune moment to salve up the Chaos Knight if need be. In the mid lane, meanwhile, as expected, you're starting to see 9 fly his way back into the lane. Might be the most even matchup between the two yet. We'll continue to keep an eye on things as these mid laners approach their ultimates. In particular, you imagine Void Spirit might want to try and utilize his lower cooldown. Also has to worry about Andros if it comes to a larger teamfight engagement and waits too long. Andros not worried about anything, running down Samsara again. The tag team plus the Bloodseeker's constant physical damage and move speed is too much for this squishy Grim. And down the bottom lane, Hugh is actually really taking some fire from Zoobs. He's going to go down. It will cost the Phoenix his life, but Zoobs just keeps finding ways to make a difference on this support. Really been impressed all series by his play, and obviously that was a team effort, but Vorkor and Zoobs on the Phoenix do bring down the CK. Nothing that Toph can do about it. Even though it was some nice jukes on the Fire Spirits there. So this Chaos Knight hero, it's interesting. It's sort of, I've seen this in a couple of series of late. It's obviously what happens when your hero becomes the focal point of a patch, especially when you are a safe laner and not like a hero like Mars, whose whole purpose is to kind of be untouchable in the lane. But this hero does get exploited quite a lot in terms of its timings and its laning phase, even for a hero that's supposedly quite strong in that spot, enough so that you can first pick it. Teams find a way. And, just as in game 1, you of Andros are surely hoping that it will be Andros and Reem who can cover the mid game, and that does seem to be working out for them so far. Monica's been pushed back into the jungle, and Andros is taking sole charge of the lane. In fact, it's going to be Unleashy finding him in the jungle, manages to avoid the Inkswell pretty easily with the Snowball. Samsara not having a third point yet to skill up Phantom's Embrace. They both get trapped on the high ground by Unleashy with a great pair of shards. Really good play by both 4 positions so far. I have to give Unleashy some of that credit. Okay. Bit of a claimed misclick at bottom lane. Not sure what happened there, but what happened at top is that Andros gets a double kill. I mean, Andros gets the kill credit, but really, we know that was Unleashy's double. Found the heroes in the jungle, outplayed the Inkswell, that's a long cooldown ability, calls over the Bloodseeker from the lane, sets it up with baits them onto the ramp for a perfect double hero Ice Shards block, and that's all of the start this Bloodseeker need. I'm sure, okay, it doesn't even have an Orb of Corrosion, so not even really investing item-wise into dominating this lane, although what's flying out on the courier? Nope, just scrolls. So Andros is taking very seriously his role as the probable carry this game, at least for the first part of things. 9 seemingly was able to force out a Brewmaster split there with the help of a haste rune, but it's going to be pressure on the mid lane tower, even if it's not a kill for Reem, and it is a kill for Hugh in the bottom lane, getting some revenge on Vorkor. So again, the benefits of having a more powerful support, a more powerful killing support, are evident here. The Chaos Knight is able to clap back a little bit, and, contest this lane, get what he needs to, work towards that crucial armlet, and then so long as these other two cores on the team are strong enough, it won't matter that he's had a somewhat difficult early game. Unleashy having a bit of a difficult time in the mid lane, but 9 can't quite finish that kill. It's a nice little snowball. 9 thought that he was the target. It ended up being the mid lane, and it won't save his life, but it does bait the Void Spirit into sticking around long enough that Andros makes that fateful TP to the mid lane, and makes the first of what I'm sure he expects will be many, many Ravage casts onto the Void Spirit. That's a secured kill on 9, leads to a secured kill on Samsara. A lot of pings coming out, but they're friendly. And, yeah, that was as concise a statement of the game plan for you of Andros here in Game 3 that you could possibly ask for. Early aggression by the Tusk forces a commitment and an engagement from the mid laner, and then the Bloodseeker appears, takes 9 just completely out of the fight. No real way to outplay that. And from there, they mop up. Now, will it work out in a full engagement? Will Vorkor or Zoobs be able to combo break? Who can say? Not able to combo break in this case because Zoobs is just hunted and killed by the CK. No Supernova ready just yet, but Mars, actually, no, not able to finish off Hugh so far. Vorkor has a spear in 3, 2. He's been very good at hitting these so far, but Hugh cleverly, after dying a death like exactly like this in Game 2, I think it was, does not run into the trees this time. Jukes it out instead, turns and stuns, and instead it's going to be Vorkor likely going down here. Yes, it is another aggressive rotation. No man left behind here for the Radiant, and it's paying off for you of Andros up to a 3k gold lead as they bring down the in-game leader for Looney Melb. Andros so far been untouched in the top lane, but they're trying to reach out and touch him or torch him here. Runs only into more heroes as he goes. Even the Bloodseeker's move speed being put to the test. Has help now from the supports. Actually wanted to turn. That's Andros' state of mind right now. Tried to turn and cast a Rupture, and will 9 just kind of walks back downhill into vision of the Radiant. Maybe he thought it was a bait play, but that's not going to work out. Has he outlasted the Rupture? He hasn't outlasted the damage. He's going to go down here. Surely, Andros is able to pick off Samsara. 9 has actually managed to last long enough to evade the Rupture, but then he's in too deep for the Astral Step to get him out. There really is no solution, at least at this phase of the game, for that sort of play. He played that about as well as you could possibly hope to. Andros absolutely testing his limits of his hero there. Goes down to about 5 life with the attentions of the Phoenix, but I'm sure that was completely calculated by our 7k MMR god, Andros. Just rocking and rolling on this Bloodseeker so far. Top last hits of the game, even having the supports TP over and self up, so you can tell they are playing the game according to their timings, even if that timing is just their TP cooldown of their supports and their Brewmaster. They are making it work. Something fierce for them here in game 3, certainly more than they did in Game 2, and much like they did in Game 1, and yeah, I mean, I said their draft looked a lot more like Game 1, and so far, the execution looks similar as well. The CK had a bit of trouble, but was trading okay, and is now getting to recover as Andros and Reem really put their hands on the scales. These ultimates are devastating these early engagements, and the Phoenix doesn't even have the egg yet. The 10-minute tome was apparently not made available to Zoobs. I'm gonna guess it was given to 9 if it was bought at all. Because none of these supports are ready with their ultimates, and Vorkor has the ultimate, but this is a tough game to just kind of wait in the middle of the fight as a Mars and throw down an arena. There's so many tools to bail heroes out of the arena, or just to kind of move the fight around and make it difficult to catch up and land an arena. He's just walking at them with brown boots right now. That's not going to work out in a majority of cases unless you already catch someone. Say 9 is able to step forward and throw a remnant, but that's extremely fraught for 9 because Andros, is always looking. In fact, it's almost surprising to see Andros back off from 9, but maybe just figures that was so close as to be an obvious bait. I think I also want to draw attention to the vision game since it's been such a feature, but I have to wait a moment. Reem is being targeted in the mid lane. This time they managed to catch an arena, but the swap is there from Toph. Like I said, there's just so many tools that help to mitigate the impact of Vorkor. They know how good he is on this Mars and how impactful he was in Game 2. And now they're going to go back in. Reem has the ultimate, gets the cast off right as the spear is thrown. It does not interrupt him. Perfect timing. Does not allow 9 to come in and try and burst him down. And now that they've baited out the engagement, here comes the Bloodseeker. Before 9 is even down from that tornado, his fellow core is dead. And as soon as he lands, there's an instant Rupture. They cancel that second tornado with the Banish, the Dispel Magic on the Panda. And Unleashy, he might die for this backline snowball, but they're going to force out an egg. Actually, they survive. Reem is going to go down. That's an unstoppable streak ended. Samsara takes the kill, but Andros There's a reason the team's named after him. He's the big star. He has a maelstrom. He will not be stopped. Not with all these ultimates and heroes already down. He takes his fill, kills Samsara, swift revenge exacted, and I mean, this is kind of what I was worried about. Zoobs was so instrumental for this team, both in Game 1 and Game 2, especially Game 2. And this Phoenix just doesn't let him be as active in the same way. He is kind of beholden to the quality of the fights his team takes, to the quality of the lane his team's able to get for him. And, you know, now that he finally has this supernova, it was kind of a sad supernova situation. He made the most of it, killed the valuable mid laner, right? Just kind of happened to be low enough health under the tower to not be able to survive, not be able to hit the egg. So credit for making the best of a bad situation, but I mean, you think of the famous puppy quote, you know, you make a best situation out of no situation, but no situation is still not good. It's not good enough, certainly, in the low bracket finals in an elimination game. And Andros is about to lap your carry on net worth at 13 minutes? Oh my god. He's out of control. 9 walks up to this Bloodseeker, realizes he, as the mid lane Void Spirit, is a mid lane Void Spirit who, again, probably took the tome full 3 levels behind the off lane Bloodseeker. Half his net worth, basically. That is an insane gap. This is smurfing in a pub kind of core gap. And obviously that's not just like, oh, core gap in terms of skill, but just the way that the chips have fallen in these fights. It's been Andros just gobbling up all of the benefits, drawing all of the gold into himself. And fortunately for his team, this is a hero where you can be fully satisfied with that. He's going to pick up this BKB, and he is just menacing chunks of the map. He is taking so much territory, so much attention away from the Dire, or rather taking attention away from his team, the attention of the Dire, and Reem Nizzle and Hugh are going to thrive from that. You see the Brew hanging out in the mid lane with the ult ready, trying to bait the initiation. This time the spear will connect in time, but the swap is there. Of course, the swap is there. They knew which way the spear would have to be coming from, and they fully bait this engagement. The egg is down inside the arena. There's Dire Heroes inside the arena as well. They do bring the egg down. I thought they were going to have some trouble there, but they have just enough auto attacks. It was pretty slow, but they do bring down the Phoenix, and this could be the start of a beautiful team fight for them. Andros arrives as well, so that's the middle of her beautiful team fight. This time, for once, the Rupture is not on the Void Spirit because he was already dead, so it's Monica instead who feels this rough. There's a buyback from 9 to try and make that count, one rare opportunity to get in there and fight unhindered, but you're hindered by the loss of your team. They're already dead, and it's a swift retreat in spite of those buybacks. Zoobs also bought back. They both avoid diebacking, but that is a 5-0 team fight before 15 minutes, and you bought back twice for no gain. Absolutely crippling economic damage. 1,500 gold on the board for that team fight in terms of swing alone. And that's without counting the buybacks. And without considering how far ahead Andros already was. The whole team is starting to get this far ahead now. This is much worse than Game 1, officially. Andros is about to complete this BKB. And it's this Phantom Lancer pick, I think, for Monica that's really cemented it as much as anything the Dire have done. Yes, they had success with the slow farming Medusa in Game 2. But this PL pick is so much more exploitable. It can't just be in the Ancients, which granted have been watered. And Andros does die. Volkor actually takes him out there. I shouldn't be taking this stuff for granted, I suppose, just yet, as the Bloodseeker does not quite have that BKB. Still mortal, and they are going to make his whole team feel mortal as a result. They were kind of getting a little bit too far ahead of themselves. 3 heroes down already. Toph extremely likely to fall. The sole survivor of this engagement in the end will probably be Hugh. Volkor just straight airballs that spear. I'm sorry to catch that on camera. It's alright. The rest of the fight was really good. You get one for free after you kill the Bloodseeker. That's fine. You're high on life. But Hugh has fully benefited from that space, and as one Radiant Core falls from the top of the net worth chart, another takes its place, like a mighty Vandross Hydra. They are 3-headed right now. It is the top 3 net worths. There is a bit of a gap from the Bloodseeker and the Chaos Knight to the Brew. These are not the kind of problems that you are really concerned about in the middle of a game of Dota. You are thriving as Vandross. Even after that rough engagement, you are thriving. And they are not slowing down for a second. Hugh is now joining the team. They've identified that might have been the difference maker. They're going to stun 9, pulls him back into the 3-second Chaos Bolt. That's all she wrote for the Void Spirit. It's got to the point where they definitely do not even need to rupture him. Instead, they sort of just throw it out on the On the Grimstroke, that was probably unnecessary. I don't know if we have the... We don't have the charges ready yet. We don't have that, that available. I guess that's a talent now, so we're very far off of having that, but, it doesn't matter. There's still a lot in the tank, and this Phoenix just kind of panic eggs, forced to by Hugh. No way to help that out. That's disastrous. You'd almost rather have died, but I guess that was the dieback. So Zoobs, knowing this is how desperate Zoobs feels, already forced to buy back in the previous fight to no gain, knows that if you don't press egg now, even with such a forlorn hope of a fight, you're just not going to get to cast it for another minute, and you might lose your high ground without getting to cast it. So just presses the button, but it does absolutely nothing. It's looking grim. Lunimeld, they had such a great rallying game too. I thought the game 3, they might be able to show me up once again, but U of Andros, they steadied, they identified what was sort of what the counterpunch was against them, and even denied the advantage they reaped from that Night Stalker. They go back to another hero providing vision advantage. Again, the Bloodseeker, it's obviously not the only thing the hero offers. It's been a great counter pick, much more so than their previous last pick of the Pangolier. This is finally a last pick that's really felt like it's cracked the game open, but certainly the thirst hasn't hurt. And Andros being able to build a BKB and a Maelstrom must feel pretty good for this team as well. Reem also feeling very, very comfortable on the Panda Brewmaster. Tapping away at the neutrals now, even with the ult ready, even with the team looking for a fight, satisfied that he doesn't need to be there. They're just kind of prowling now. There's no Phoenix Egg, and so Zoobs is a safe target to Rupture. Tries to get the swoop away, maybe not realizing or pressing the button as the Rupture's cast. Either way, we can comfortably say his fate was sealed. They finish off the Phoenix. And again, that wasn't really them looking for a team fight, and they're able to successfully avoid a team fight. They just take it, they just walk into your jungle, take a kill in front of your whole team, and leave. Monica's going to try and just leave, but Reem was already casting Primal Split, absolutely no delay, not giving any window for a teleport scroll to finish, and Monica is mopped up with a little bit of help from Unleashing on the Tusk. That one counts. That one's a blow. If you thought you were safe just because the Rupture was used, think again. They are going to pounce on Andros in mid. This might have been an overcommitment, but he has the BKB. He turns on them. His support will go down. No BKB available on the Venge, of course, but Andros, that's a sacrifice he's willing to make. Was not willing to sacrifice the Aegis. Chose to sacrifice the 10-second BKB charge, but that was the arena used, so there will be no arena if they were planning any sort of defense of the outer tower, and granted, I'm a little skeptical that there ever was a plan to defend this tier 2 with the way the game is going. Definitely off the cards for now. Also means that Hugh can safely walk in this mid lane with no real fear, although does pop a BKB and runs back, so actually kind of was afraid, and they see that and then ping that out, and they go on Reem. Still no Primal Split. He's going to go down without casting it. They're isolating the heroes without arena. Tusk is also dead. Hugh turns, though. He's a tankier target, and Andros chews through that egg like it's nothing. Makes it sound as fragile as it sounds. Samsara tries to turn on the high ground with a stun. Is he actually gonna? He's gonna stun Andros. He's gonna turn. They blow up the Aegis. Great Grimstroke play. Really understanding his limits and the Bloodseeker's limits. It's still not quite such a burster, not like an Ursa or anything where you can instantly shred a support without the help of spells. But Andros, you know, an Aegis is an Aegis. They already won the team fight. They take a tier 2 tower with that. They force a... Or I guess they tempt a buyback out of Vorquar. It turned out to not really be necessary. Samsara soloed the Bloodseeker more or less. So you could argue that maybe a buyback was unnecessary from the Mars. And that's going to be pretty meaningful. Vorquar goes for the catch but misses the arena. Was that a blink? I think Hugh might have just stepped out of that one. Really hard game for the Mars. And there is now the BKB has been swapped back in. I can't tell whether I think maybe Hugh blinked backwards and then backpacked the blink dagger. I'm pretty sure he blinked out of that with how that looked, but irrelevant now. As is Samsara. They try to check the CK, but he has already unbackpacked the BKB. Pops the BKB in reaction. The spear goes through him. The spells go through him. He goes through the Grimstroke. His team goes through Monica on the top lane. Hugh finds Vorquar. Vorquar was outside the base? Wow. I don't know. There's no vision on the high ground, so I don't imagine he got rifted off the hill. I think maybe just realized that his carry was dying and maybe either took a risk with the pathing or just lost track momentarily of where his hero was. The CK pounces immediately, destroys the Mars, and with that, I mean, no Rax has yet fallen, but that could be about to change. No buyback on the Mars. Two other heroes are also without buyback, the Void Spirit and the Phoenix, and the Void Spirit's in trouble already, although they do kill off Reem, even with the swap, and Unleashing might go down as well. He slightly outruns the Sunray. Zoob's doing his absolute level best. There is a Supernova available and a Glyph. They're going to get this Tusk. Zoobs continues to be a super impressive player throughout this series. If they do find their season ending here, it will not be for a lack of effort on his part. But they bring the Void Spirit deep into the fight. He uses himself to safety, and he ducks back out, but Andros has already killed Samsara, just taking what they can. That's true of both sides, though. Toe falls on the retreat. And now they're trying to chase down Andros. Hugh is on armlet toggle hit points, but doesn't want to fully abandon the Bloodseeker, but he has to come back in right now. They're running him down. The Diffusal Blade from Monica's doing sterling work. They are going to kill Andros. Dominating streak ends. Hugh threw the Phantasm, but realized there was nothing he could ultimately do to help his heroes. That was actually a huge base defense. No additional buybacks. And just because they were able to... They slightly overextended Reem. It's been a bit of a difficult game, a real tenterhooks kind of thing this whole time. They've been baiting consistently with the Brewmaster and relying on the swap from the Vengeful Spirit to bail him out. And that time, as well as the prior time, it just wasn't quite there quick enough. There were too many dots. It was about a half second too slow. Reem dies, doesn't get the split off, and at that point the team, they were so overcommitted to hounding the Dire back into their fountain, they're forced to retreat through a glyphed tower. They lose more heroes, and at that point they are vulnerable to getting mopped up. So a really excellent base defense, and they take advantage of a rare mistake from U of Andros, but this will not change the tune. The U of Andros boys are straight back into it. They have another primal split. They have found Vorkor on the Mars. He has no buyback. He does have a Bulwark. They toss him up in the air, which buys his team time to reinforce and lets him have his blink cooldown back. There's no fall damage on the Brewmaster Tornado as there is on Yule's, so ultimately that kill turns into nothing. And that's a primal split used. No, doesn't even have the primal split charges yet. Does not have the Ag Scepter. I'm not sure if they're maybe relying on getting him that off Roche. But, yeah, again, certainly not a bad position. It is still a 13k gold lead, but if we check the win graph for the first time this series, yeah, the win graph is still a solid 90-ish% in the favor of U of Andros. But you could see also that the Golden Experience, they took a little dip. And we also saw that when Andros was isolated, without his BKB especially, they were not afraid to dive on him, and they were able to isolate and kill him pretty quickly. Like, this Bloodseeker, he has now completed a Glypnir. He's doing his best to build in a way that counters the PL, but he's not quite there yet, and I have to imagine that PL can eventually just outscale him. I don't imagine Bloodseeker puts out enough AoE damage to combat PL with a heart. We'll have to see, I guess, if it gets that far. Team's having a great fight right now. Nine actually survives a rupture finally. It's at the cost of his support, as always. Samsara going down. Still trying to survive. Still covered in dots. This time, it is the Vessel. So, Nine just going to play no part in this fight. And they've Glypnired Monica. Monica was trying to screen the team's retreat. This time, it is the Dire who are going to be caught on their way out and fully routed. Decimated, even. Vorkor is killed as well as they continue to just chase forward, blink up the hill from the CK. I think he got Tornado cancelled by Reem Nizzle at the end of the ultimate, but that was great stuff. They're just making this game so miserable for Nine, as they have for most of this series. It's not even been that Nine's played badly, it's that he's not being allowed to play. And that has definitely paid off here in Game 3, as it did in Game 1. He's going to go back in now, try and make the most of it, but can't even land the Inkswell. He's going to get immediately Reality Rifted back in and Glypnired for his troubles. It is doing the work of distracting them from the racks. It's dragging them back into the tier 4s, but you can't... How many magic tricks can you pull off in a row, actually? The huge heal from the Grimstroke Shard is going to keep him alive. Zoobs is back up. Monica is back up. Andros puts out a bit of a help ping, insisting the team fall back. Reem has another ultimate, which is proving helpful. I think he must have completed the Ags to get that charge. That and maybe that alone is going to make the difference between another very costly retreat from the base and a retreat in good order. This time, though, they do get the racks. This time, they do manage to sleep away without expending lives cheaply. Really, really nice defensive play from Nine and from Samsara there to try and create that situation. But again, at some point, the weight of all this gold differential is just going to lean down too hard on those scales. Individual playmaking can only recover so much of that difference, especially with the heroes they have. Unleashy looking to prove that, and he has support, actually. I didn't see Andros lurking to the bottom of the screen. They punish 9 for his audacity before there is no Fountain or Tier 4 to retreat to this time. No Grimstroke cleanse to bail him out. They're going to get a retaliatory kill on the Vengeful Spirit, but that's a mid for a support. Doesn't feel great. You have to imagine that they are going to either go straight back into the base or set up on Roche. Maybe set up on Roche, given that this is the, deciding game of an elimination final, and they've had a little bit of trouble the last couple of high ground expeditions. This is the kind of thing that happens when you have all melee cores. But, and especially when your opponents have such powerful team fighting spells and such good hit and run, stuff like that. You can't really sit there and melee attack towers when Phoenix and Mars and Void and Grimstroke are all sitting there watching you and they have a PL to chase you out of the base. So it's not as though I disagree with how you Evandros have been playing, but it has been made tricky for them. Nevertheless, they are grinding down all resistance here. Looney Melb looking to be on their last legs. The win percent graph is up to 98% as the net worth continues to rise in their favor as well. The PL is about a large creep behind the third richest core on the side of the Radiant. Finally overtakes the Brood, but a long way to go to catch up to the Bloodseeker, and then the CK is even another half a thousand gold ahead. Has that Mage Slayer up again. Really values that seemingly on the Chaos Knight. I don't blame him. I think it's a cool item. The illusions apply it, which is... I thought the illusions apply it. The illusions benefit from the magic resistance, certainly, and the extra stats. Stat item's always good on this hero, so, pretty solid choice when your opponents are leaning on stuff like a Phoenix to counteract you. It's, the Phoenix just hasn't had the impact that maybe they were hoping, and it's kind of meant that we've seen a quieter game out of Zubs, really only able to play around the Supernova cooldown or when there's a tower or something to fight around, and finally we see all of the Dire group up. I feel like they've been initiated on in almost every fight, or it's been them trying to start a small-scale engagement and they're getting countered on when Andros or Reem arrives to the fight. So let's see if they can actually sort of move in good order as 5 and take a full engagement, but they move instead of their triangle, and that's not what's being contested because Roshan has been respawned, so Andros and Hugh and company are there taking a bigger objective on the opposite side of the map. The smoke play comes to nothing. They're forced to defend their lanes and get their base in order, and I'm sure they were aware what's happening pretty quickly, but they are powerless to stop it. Now there's an Aegis up on the Chaos Knight, which is a little interesting. Andros has certainly seemed as vulnerable, if not more vulnerable, and is arguably a better carrier, given Chaos Knight is still fairly dependent on his big illusion ultimate. But, it's far from a bad call, and wow, especially as Hugh has completed a full Bloodthorn. Definitely been making use of the farming space allotted him. And after that game 2, where the CK never really got off the ground, this has to feel so much better for the carry player of U of Andros. It's just kind of proving that they believe 100% in Hugh's play on this Chaos Knight. And even when it looked pretty firmly beaten in game 2, they go right back to it and have a really strong game. Now Hugh, feeling his strength, goes forward, Reality Rift on 9, brings him low already. Very snappy BKB. BKB allows him to, if not wear off the Rupture, allows him to survive long enough to Astral step back to the tower. They save him with a Bulwark. Nice little play by Vorquil there. Now the team fights under their tier 4s, but it's not helping them right now. They don't have that glyph available, it seems. And instead, they're going to have to just throw down the arena and fight to the death. Vorquil meets his pretty quickly. Did get the Venge. Now they mop up the illusion. The Egg and Sunray are both down. That's discouraging any further aggression. A little bit of a retreat from Hugh of Andros. They're taking a ton of damage. Now the glyph comes out, but Hugh is just wearing all those tower shots. It doesn't matter to him. The CK is too tanky. He kills off 9. Now on the backlines, Reem has been isolated. His ultimate ends. It looks like he is pretty much guaranteed to die here. No more charges of Primal Split available. Hugh comes over, riding at the last minute, but the cavalry's here too late. He's charged into his death. He does have an Aegis, but he doesn't have a second BKB charge. He does manage to limp back to his team. Monica maybe could have brought him down deeper in the base, but didn't want to overcommit, and so they're unlikely to get a second kill, and maybe they need to. They need to go for a lot here. It's a nice Grimstroke hold, but Unleash is in at the back. He cuts off the Phoenix's Sunray and his life. Samsara is able to kill Hugh, but Hugh is actually going to go down. Andros is retreating from the fight, but can he get out? No! They turn this completely around. They didn't actually have the juice after all, and staying to finish those buildings, even just one building, did cost them. Was that worth a melee racks? We'll have to see, but it cost them the Aegis. It cost them their entire team. It didn't even cost any buybacks on the side of the Dire from what I could see. I think maybe there was a support buyback if I check carefully. There were a lot of deaths in that fight. Yeah, Phoenix bought back there, and diebacked as well. So hard stuff for Zoobs, but that's the second dieback of the game for him on the Phoenix. But this one was much more productive. Again, really great stuff. Looney Bell seeming to thrive when their backs are against the wall. And they make another successful base defense, and now you start to wonder a little bit. I wonder what the win percentage graph will make of this, because Monica got a lot of value out of that fight, cleaning things up. And again, I have to imagine that at some point, especially if the Radiant cores keep dying, this is not a situation in Game 1 where they were able to just kind of outscale with Midas's against an Ursa. Win percentage graph holding pretty firm, though, for UOA at this point. It is still 16,000 net worth lead. They did ultimately take away another barracks that will never be recovered in the course of this game for Looney Melb. They are inching closer to victory, inching closer to that grand final meeting with the Warrior Chads with every one of these engagements. But they are bleeding with every step. This is a fight. It has become one. And I'm so glad to say that. Like, after game 1 of this series, we could easily have been going home in a hurry. But instead, this one is going the distance. And if you're a Dota fan, I'm sure we all are here, this is what you came to see. And I wonder, like, that fight, 9, the last couple of fights, 9 has actually been able to survive the Rupture. That time he's able to even survive the Rupture, and in such a way that his team actually benefited from his presence in the fight, even if it only served to bait more Dire heroes deeper into the tier 4s and near the fountain. That was still very relevant, and he survived to stick around and pump out a lot of damage, and that's only going to continue to be the case, you would think, as he itemizes further up. Obviously, Andros is continuing to scale as well, but not in a way that kind of continues to put as much pressure as that initial counterplay of, you know, just Rupture, you have no items, die. And obviously the Rupture even less effective against heroes like this Phantom Lancer, who is advancing rapidly towards Ascadi now. It's been very concerning because they just seem to lack a lot of damage to finish him off. Like, Andros has built this Glypnir, and if they get the jump on him, certainly they can kill the Phantom Lancer. They can kill Monica, right? Especially with the Bloodthorn available, but you know, Monica is just relying on not being caught and has been doing a pretty good job in all 3 games of not being out of position as the carry player. It's just that in game 1 as the Ursa, it didn't really matter so much. This game it definitely does, and it only is going to matter more. This Skadi is going to force them to pay more and more attention to this PL, and it doesn't look like they have the best tools to actually make anything happen. And now, 9 is actually getting aggressive, dives out of the base, forces the initiation onto Andros, and forces a BKB. They Rupture him, they Glypnir him, 9 BKBs and TPs away, but they swap him back in. He's still surviving, though, using the spells at his disposal. The BKB allowing him to play around with this Rupture a little bit. It's limiting his impact on the fight, but not cancelling it. Andros dies and buys back, but he has no boots of travel. He's teleporting to an outpost in his own jungle. His team are getting obliterated on the steps. Is this the beginning of the end for you of Andros? A disastrous team fight. Andros is still returning to the fight. Reamdis's ultimate, his first ultimate ends. Can he get a second one off? He does just in time before he silences. That could be crucial. A second Rupture comes out onto 9. There's no second BKB though, so this one will almost certainly be his death, but he's being kept alive by the Grimstroke Shard. Vorkor is there as well. They're beating down on Reamdis's spirits. They're trying to find 9 in the trees. Nice little howl from Toph. A little bit of a contribution from the Vengeful there to finish him off, but they do isolate Ream in the trees. There's no blink out. 9 is a little salty about all the Ruptures, but you can't be too mad with this outcome for the team fight. Vorkor goes up the hill a little prematurely ahead of his team there. With Monica there, I don't think they turn and kill, but there's just enough time for them to punish that mispositioning, so a little bit of a bonus kill, but those are frightening scenes. CEO of Andros, Monica fully arriving in this game as the Phantom Lancer finishes the Skadi after the fight that was without the Skadi, and absolutely laid waste to Andros on those steps in a real hurry. The cores got all messed up from you of Andros. They will have to take their fights a lot more carefully. Again, they kind of just saw 9, and it hasn't worked in a couple of fights for them, but they just immediately pulled the trigger on the Rupture. 9 was very ready for it. He just sprinted forward to bait exactly that kind of initiation, and the Rupture was so late that he'd fully gotten the Astral Step off before any further spells came, and they still tried to follow up. They blinked up the hill on Reamnizzle, and at that point, they're just locked into a rough fight on the base steps. No way to miss the arena, no way to get to the egg. You can't use those mobility spells too soon as the Radiant here. They have found the space, or their creeps have, I'm not sure, to chip away this range barracks in the mid lane, so it is just one lane remaining. But at this point, even mega creeps aren't really 100% a solution. 9 is going to have the Aghanims at some point. They have great creep clear on their supports, and Monica is able to do a lot of base defending with the Phantom Army, whether that's against creeps or, as we've just seen, against heroes. Even has that nice Elven Tunic. Tier 4 neutral items coming up now. Those are going to be big as well. Monica's outside the base and kind of in the back lines of the team, though. They're trying to isolate him. He does not have a BKB. The arena goes down, though, so they were prepared for the counter initiation, and Unleashing is quickly killed. Both supports are quickly killed. Monica is godlike. Reamnizzle cleans up the backline, but we've seen this can go bad for him pretty quickly as the Brew can't get out after the split. He refreshes. He has 2 new charges, but he falls out of that... He falls out of the Yules into a Remnant, into a Spear, into a Cliff, and Andros stuck around to get a Rupture onto 9, but for what purpose? The CK is trying to get over there. No, he's not. Andros, that was your dieback, buddy. I have no idea what that was about. Hugh calls for the team to relax, but I don't know. Can you afford to relax? These fights are getting worse and worse, and that last death by Andros, that was egregious. Look at how good the Dire's vision is all around their side of the map. They know where the fights are going to be happening, and when they're being put on the defense, they have been a bulwark, and not just the Mars. They have done such a good job of spacing themselves out in these fights, of playing around their vision, of really anticipating how the opponents are going to use their spells and making sure that they can minimize the impact. 9 begged them to stop rupturing him, but I think deep down 9 wants them to keep rupturing him because, I mean, especially in that situation, it did not pay off for Andros. There was just no additional pressure, and now, as soon as 9 bought this BKB, the Rupture has kind of ceased to be a threat, because even though he can't move, he has enough hit points to be able to survive casting an Astral Step or 2 if it means he gets out of the damage pressure of the rest of the team. And if he can't, he's able to dissimulate to buy time, and his team are there to back him up. Now he's got the aesthetics cap on top of everything else. It's going to be even harder to threaten him with these spells and with these disables. And they are now pushing up to the high ground of the Radiant. Not onto the high ground. They're not in any hurry. Certainly to throw the game, but this Roshan, that looks achievable. Monica heads there now. I wonder, win percent graph, how sure are you now? Oh, win percent graph, now you agree with me, huh? You didn't think we would, the Dota AI, infallible Dota AI, didn't think we were turning the corner after the last team fight, but now everything looks right and rosy. And I mean, by everything looks right and rosy, it's still like solid 70, 60, 70% win rate for U of Andros. So have faith, friends. I think that just represents that, like, you are this close to winning. There's just not a lot of collateral left on the side of Looney Melbourne. Any bad team fight, or even a miscalculated team fight, they could get backdoored. It'll instantly cost them not just the game, but their chances at a championship. However, at this point, I think it is safe to say that the fights are thoroughly in their favor. Monica has fully outscaled the Bloodseeker and the Chaos Knight. And even if there will come a point in the late game potentially where this PL is capped out and the combined strength of the Radiant cores is kind of like adds up to enough to overwhelm Monica, we are pretty far from that. We can't see like individual net worth progression graphs, but I can tell you that there was a point in this game when this PL was like, I swear the Brewmaster had something like 17,000 net worth the last time I looked at this net worth chart. And that was more than 5 minutes ago. And at that time, the PL was about 16,000 net worth or 14,000 net worth. Now, the PL is 26,000 net worth. The Brewmaster has barely moved. And the Bloodseeker and the Chaos Knight have been completely overhauled. In addition to, at least in Bloodseeker's case, just not using the money quite as well as a PL does. And this is not even the final form, right? There's still this solitary Wraith Band can be sold off. Potentially the defusal could be exchanged, but I mean, I don't think that's particularly likely, but Monica could, you buy a moon shard. There's all sorts of things that you can sink gold into at this point. Buy an Axonate it, tons of stuff, and it's all really relevant on this PL. In the meantime, what can they build up to try and take the PL down? It's not clear. This Chaos Knight is not going to go back for a Mjolnir or anything. The Bloodseeker is not even going to go back for a Mjolnir, and this Gleipnir, I don't know if I can say the Gleipnir has really, like, made a difference positively or negatively. I don't think it's made a difference positively. I'm not going to say that trying to build it into a Maelstrom would have changed this outcome. I think it's been more on some clutch defenses and maybe some slight overextensions into the base. But, yeah, the BKBs and the Purge as well, this Grimstroke Shard, maybe he's the target they need to be able to find at the start of the fight, because that's been instrumental a couple of times in bailing heroes out, but we just have not felt the impact of their control. It fell away so quickly from when it was dominant in the early game for U of Andros, and it seems like they just didn't quite adjust as quickly as maybe they needed to that loss of teamfight dominance. They've given up a lot of gold as a result. But there is nothing else for it with this team than to sally forward. And they know that the Roshan is up. They know that that's where the next team fight is going to be. Monica did not have enough space to farm it. They are smoked. The smoke broke? Did Unleashy attack a creep or something? I thought I saw the smoke icon on the tusk. Regardless, they actually control the vision around the pit. The Dire, they spent their wards to control their own jungle, and they have control of that space. They also... That's Radiant Pings. The Dire don't have Sentry Vision at this high ground. They keep throwing stuff up there to try and get some high ground vision from the Remnant, but in turn, they are seen, and they are going to pounce on this. No BKB, no Aegis PL. They pull it in, the combo, the Rupture into the Rift. Vision is king, as always, in this series and Dota in general, but there is a buyback. Buybacks might be even more powerful than wards, and Monica is right in there. The Sunray working seriously on the side of UO Andros, even with that Mage Slayer, and suddenly it's all gone south. 4 heroes dead, 2 have buyback available, but they are just going to concede this fight immediately. They evaporate. It's only Reem who's going to survive, so they buy back on the Chaos Knight, realizing not that they can contest this Roshan, because that chance is shot. They had their one crack at killing off the PL, and they did, but even without necessarily committing a ton of spells, they just aren't even able to control the secondary cores now. Reem wasn't able to prevent the Phoenix Sunray or the Mars Arena from devastating his team, unfortunately, and as a result, they are going to cede this Aegis to the PL, I suppose, but actually maybe to 9. Yeah, 9 has the slot free. The PL is actually too bulky to need this. No, wait, it is going to be Monica. Never mind, it was completely rused. Freed up a slot at the last minute. 9 had a slot free for, I guess, the shard? The cheese. Anyway, so now that I suppose Monica did represent an opportunity to lose the game. If you die without buyback on this PL, is a very large chunk of their teamfight power. Pretty instrumental. So Aegis on a Monica, taking no chances. And so even that plan, relatively well executed, fails in the end, you have to say, for the side of U of Andros. Even more worrying sides. The win percentage graph, for the first time since before 5 minutes, is back in favor, predicting a Looney Melb victory. And what a comeback it would represent, not only in this game, but in this series as a whole. What kind of psychological plane that must lift you to going into an equally killer grand finals matchup tomorrow night. Now, they haven't punched their ticket yet. They can't get ahead of themselves, and I shouldn't either, but they have really done a tremendous job of holding strong in this game. It has not looked easy. It didn't even look especially easy in Game 2 for the first part, but this has been even more of an absolute nail-biter. And they have clawed their way all the way back in. And Monica has just, like, I obviously, I'm impressed by Zubs' play. I'm impressed by Vorkor. I'm impressed by what Nine's been able to do, even in a game which is clearly not a lot of fun. Samsara has come up big in this game, but, like, Samsara and Monica both, I feel like, barely got a chance to show themselves in the previous game. Monica kind of did in game 2, but mostly just by being able to take advantage of the space provided and farm up a storm on this Medusa. This game, the farming under pressure, the itemization, the positioning to just never be caught, the presence to continue to scale despite that, and the play in the fights, it's all been pretty clutch, have to say. Both of these teams have looked very strong all night, but, I mean, even giving Andros final pick priority in the draft, even giving him this like heavily advantaged lane matchup and this ideal start, he's just not as able to completely, literally carry the game. This Bloodseeker just does not beat PL late. Players running into some server lag issues. Can't say I'm noticing myself, but I am not the one clicking around the map trying to play an extremely high stakes game of Dota. So we'll trust the players. Hopefully that's cleaned up soon. Maybe the server owners need to get their hands on some Predator PC parts. Who can say? Andros just wanders the map now. Timeless Relic picked up to extend the debuff duration again, kind of counteract the Ascetics cap, which, is this now being held by Monica? The Mars? The Phoenix has it. They're trying to make sure Zoobs has the Refresher Shard. So rocking the Ascetics cap here. It won't quite Lincoln's blocker debuff, but it will hopefully make sure the Phoenix survives long enough to get off this Ag Supernova and then another. And how on earth can they possibly fight into double Arena, double Supernova? The answer is they probably can't. So it's time to rat. Reem Nizzle runs all of those pandas up the higher ground and onto the tower they go. 9 is responsible for coming back and clearing this up, which is a bit of an odd choice given that... Well, actually, no, he fully executes those pandas. Oh, no, the pandas just end, sorry. I was about to say, surely the Void Spirit can't kill the Earth Panda in particular that quickly, but he doesn't. Doesn't have to. And in the end, that was never going to be a real split push threat. It was enough to try and draw 9 back. They pull in Vorkwall this time. They pick a Rupture target they can actually kill, and it's a good start. But he's put in the egg! He's saved by the Phoenix! The cast range is unreal there. Is that an Aether Lens? Has to be. Nope, just cast range, I guess. Anyway, picking up the Masters, all she wrote for that team fight, it looks like, is he's now going to get off a second arena, and there's potentially a second egg on the back of this. I don't know how they can stand. So far, it's almost miraculous. They've only lost the Venge. There's going to be buybacks from both supports. The Snowball is going to save the Chaos Knight, but not the Rax. They're trying to make their buildings take the damage for them right now, and they have waited out both eggs and both arenas. The lack of a Void Spirit is really felt, and Andros actually clears up 9 pretty quick smart as he enters the fight, so that is a difference maker, and maybe that's going to trigger the retreat. Samsara might be a sacrifice on the way out. Vorkwall still looking to scrap. He has no arena, but the PL is fully screening the rest of the Radiant team and actually forces a dieback onto the Tusk. So since there's no help, it looks like Reem Nizzle's in trouble again. Has another split though. Hopefully going to be able to use this to at least escape. He wants to kill Samsara as well, and he does. There is a buyback though, so not the most important kill. Buyback actually just immediately utilized by the Grimstroke. We're at that point in the game where it's more important to get the cooldown running again, especially for the Dire. They have so little base to play with. They really can't afford to be caught without heroes in their base, and there is actually a pause. Seems like everyone's lagging. So we will take a moment, and look, I'll be honest, I don't mind the opportunity to take a breath. I don't know about you, everyone. This has been an incredible series, and what a game 3. Really can't hope for anything more. So, you know, thanks to all the players and the teams for really giving it their all. It makes me salivate at the thought of a grand final tomorrow going to be probably just as competitive for this as this. And, yeah, it's just awesome to be here casting AEL. You know, while you're here, make sure you make a note in your diary. Same AEL time, say AEL channel tomorrow. Make sure you come back for that grand final, best of 3. One of these teams against the Warrior Chads. I shouldn't get the different Chads confused. There are a lot of Chad teams here in the Uni League. We're about the point of the players are going to start telling each other to delete System 32 to fix the server lag. So hopefully they can get on with that quickly. And they do. So back to the in-game action here. As we try to close out this series, I don't blame the players for all wanting to hang on to their bases, but at some point, we gotta go home. I gotta breathe. And it would kind of suck, admittedly, if the game ended as a result of technical issues. Obviously, when you cast in the SEA region, that happens some of the time, and it's a brutal way for a good team to go out, especially after fighting so hard. So I can understand trying to hang in the game. And look, it must be said, this PL has been keeping ahead on net worth, but like there comes a time when Monica just can't keep out scaling. And crucially, this Aegis is expiring. Let's check the buyback status. Aegis is gone in 24 seconds, and there will be another 2 minutes where Monica has no buyback and no Aegis. No second life available at all. Now, There's very few players who have buybacks in the game. Phoenix does. It would be, I think, the third of the game for Zoobs. But more importantly, Andros and Reem both have buybacks. So they can kind of throw their lives away to force a fight. And I think it would be worth it for them, quite obviously, if it was to force a fight in a position where they could feasibly kill this PL. That Rupture into Reality Rift combo, there's into Swap even, there's just not a lot that you can do about that if you get vision ever of the PL without the Aegis, without the buyback. And you have my absolute guarantee that will be their plan. That will be their target. We are, and you can see here the other cores just haven't kept up with the PL, right? Those early racks as the economic damage. It feels like it hasn't been as important of late in Dota. Teams who take a racks on the high ground are usually strong enough to keep taking that high ground, or they're kind of at the end of their strength and the collapse is more obvious. But when the game continues to drag out like this, these Raxes have been dead for like 15, 20 minutes. You really start to see the farm difference. And it's not just that PL is like forced to vacuum all the farm up off the map. There's just not that much gold there for the Dire. And so unfortunately, Nine and Vorquar, they're doing an incredible job for the items they have, but they aren't able to weigh in quite as much, and they aren't able to keep scaling. I'm really waiting to see Reem potentially transition into more of a threat. It seemed like this Brewmaster hasn't quite gotten back to the kind of strength he was commanding in the early game, but maybe this overwhelming blink will be the difference maker. You have to imagine that puts some kind of dent in the Dire backlines, if not these tanky PL illusions. Honestly, I wouldn't have even been surprised to see more silences coming out, but I suppose we're conserving item slots and just building up as much strength as possible, trying to get the big crits going. Yeah, I guess we'll wait and see, but we're coming up to a really, really crucial juncture. The whole season potentially on the line for both these teams. That's the noise, that's the siren. It is now open season on PLs for a very, very limited time, and you would have to bet that the Radiant are tracking this. UOA, they know when that Aegis was expiring, roughly. They've surely clicked on the PL. He was in vision of creeps when the Aegis vanished, and they don't have any wards on their side of the map, but they're going to try and test it. They're scanning for a potential Dire smoke. Are they actually not going to make this play? I mean, it's obviously risky to make any sort of aggressive move on the map when you know that, your CK doesn't have Phantasm, and your CK also doesn't have buyback. But none of the Dire heroes have buyback either, and this is maybe your one good chance to kill this PL. There's a smoke from the Dire instead. Daring stuff. We'll put the buyback timer up on the screen, so it's a flat minute more or less for Monica. Again, they can see that there is no Aegis. They are going to defend their base. CK has buyback money, but no buyback. Potentially holding onto it instead of trying to finish an overwhelming blink of his own. Maybe that's the plan, is just mass overwhelming blinks. A courier dies. Toph had the Wraith Pact. That's such a late Wraith Pact, but also will be an even later Wraith Pact as the courier gets sniped on the way back from the secret shop. That's gotta suck. 40 seconds now until the PL has that second life security blanket back up. Roshan is a while away, but if PL gets buyback, you have to think the chances of killing Monica twice are slim, and now they're just going to fall back safely to their side of the map, and it looks like this opportunity will go begging. Whether that's because of a reluctance to fight without all tools available for the Radiant, or whether they just were never that hung up on it, whether they are... It seems like maybe they're just committed to the long-term plan. They're all going to buy overwhelming blinks. They're all going to have 1,000,000 health. They're going to completely outscale this PL. They do have the benefit of having kept their base alive. They've lost one high ground tower. They still have an outside tier 2. And that still matters to a pretty hefty degree, because it does just take an amount of time to knock these down. PL is not the ultimate building shredder. It's not like a late game Tiny with an IO. It will allow them some leeway in terms of fighting in their base, as they did in the last fight. They were able to fall back around their buildings, kind of as the Dire did to survive in the mid game, and it seems like they are content to lean on that as they're out, instead of going for an all-in play, as I suggested. This is why I am not a professional tier coach. Merely a caster. Just a bard. Andros has acquired a useful tool, the double rupture talent. That's going to make it even harder for heroes like Nine to contribute to the fight, or to let them just throw out a casual Rupture on the first hero they see to catch them, and then utilize the second Rupture. I don't know how much they're imagining that as an important part of a kill on Monica, because they definitely have to have a plan for killing Monica. Potentially for killing Monica twice if they can't get control of the top side back. Dire just camping out there in you know, anticipation of a Roshan respawn. I mean, so long as this PL doesn't have... They haven't really tried to do this. I can't remember. But as long as PL doesn't have a BKB, which it seems at this point Monica maybe never will, and fair enough, surely you can just put the PL in the air with the Brewmaster splits for a long time and go to work on the rest of the team who are under farms. I don't think this is fully a situation where Monica can 1v5 with no help if the team are, like, healthy and prepared. So perhaps that is a tool for them. Perhaps that's why they're not obsessed with catching Monica without a second life, is because they are just going to try and take the PL out of the equation without killing it, at least from the outset of the fight. But no matter what, this is going to be a tense and tricky situation. Vorkor rocking a leveler. Helpful for the whole base pressure question. The strategic depth, if you want to get conceptual about it, of the Radiant. Reduced by that neutral item pickup. Trying to scan to see if I missed any other crucial ones. Obviously, the Spell Prism is a big deal on both the Void Spirit and the Brewmaster. Vengeful with the Telescope. No such Telescope on the other team, but I'm sure they're happy to have the Aesthetics cap on their Phoenix. And, I mean, we're up to the point where Tier 5 items come out, right? Not quite. I should know this, but it's been a while since the game went this long, to be honest. Ream's caught! How much of this is planned? They isolate him, they pin him to the wall of the arena, he is dead! Buyback's available, but yeah, that's why it would be pretty cool to have an Aesthetics cap. And, I mean, for a lot of the game, that was a bait play by the Brewmaster. He would step like that when the Venge was in position, and maybe they assumed that Venge was close enough that the Dire wouldn't be so brazen as to jump. But there is an Obs ward up on that high ground. I'm not sure if that was thrown up before or after the kill. They just take the plunge, and ultimately the Venge is not there. Ream has already brought back. He goes in. This time he gets the ult off. Has to cast it a bit earlier. There's actually a Rupture up on 9 that I missed getting cast. They're trying to follow it up. This is what I meant. They're sort of able to throw this first Rupture out just to force a fight to happen. But the Dire are able to retreat in good order, and now 9 is back in. I think he got re-ruptured there. Yet 101 charge still available. They pin down the Tusk. Unleashy is going to die. No buyback on that support. They can't get vision of Monica or any other killable target. 9 is just happily stepping forward, daring them to rupture him again. They split a second time. Monica is pursuing Andros out of this fight. They root Monica down, but it's a very temporary answer. They get the rupture off, but Andros didn't want to turn, and that's why killed for the crime of rupturing the PL. And Monica's just not concerned. The heart's available. This is starting to look like a bit of a last whimper more than a last stand here for the side of U of Andros. They maybe drag this out too long after all. Ream Nizzle pops the BKB just to TP out, but he's bashed. Gets a split off before another bash can come out and tries to retreat again, but that's even more resources burned. Andros now buys back. There is a Rupture charge available, but it's into 5 heroes, and they, even more dishearteningly, they did less than nothing to the Dire there. That was such a non-event of a fight for them. They had no vision. The only good fight they've taken in the last half an hour was when they got a high ground ward that was unchallenged. It let them rupture the PL, and even that was just a prelude to a buyback and them all getting wiped on the hill. Without another such vision advantage, they cannot get onto a key target in the spot that matters, and Monica has so much ease at this point, and 9 from their items to wade in and control the pace of the fights. They're just not afraid anymore of these spells. The lineup has officially fallen off, and now I actually do feel more sure that it was probably worth the gamble to charge out of the base and try and find the PL prior to that engagement. At least then the team would have had to have the anxiety of no second life on the PL. But now Monica has 3 lives and a double damage. Ream once again walks the Panther Spirits at the bottom tier 3 tower, but I am very concerned to even open the win percent graph. How is it still at 60%? I guess really just acknowledging the difficulty of pushing high ground, right? Because the secondary cores are still not finding their way back to higher net worth on the side of the Dire. Although actually 9 has caught up a lot. And you can see here, they're going to get another kill. That's just the thing. The longer that Monica remains this dominant, it's not just that the other cores are remaining static. They are winning these team fights by more and more. And that is starting to finally redress the balance of gold between the teams. In fact, the balance has been redressed. There's a 23,000 net worth advantage to the Dire. But you have to consider that a lot of the gold is on the PL. And the PL is holding 11,000 gold in Hawk. So, like, 11,000 gold of that advantage you can just ignore. But that's still 12,000 gold advantage. Okay, maybe a lot of it's on Monica. There's another couple of thousand of power treads in the backpack not being used. And, you know, you can consider that having that much gold on just one hero at some point becomes diminishing returns. Even so, Vorkor is basically even to the net worth of Andros, which was unthinkable at a certain point in this game. Remember how far ahead Andros was at 15 minutes. Insanely far. Double the net worth of these heroes. Now he's fallen behind the Void Spirit. The CK is only barely keeping his nose in front. They're going to make a play on Monica with the Rupture, but Monica has 3 lives. This is not the hero to initiate on. Vorkor dives in. Refresher, BKB, Arena. They're going to kill at least the Venge. They force the swap. Second Arena. Traps Unleashy and Hugh. And it's just chaos. Monica is already unstoppable, forcing out buybacks from the supports. Reem is just kind of hanging out in his ultimate form. They do bring down the Aegis of the PL, but how much more they get? They actually get 9, which forces a buyback. That was pretty big, I admit. I think the aggression got to them a little, and even with the Mars Arena blocking the tier 4 shots, it wasn't good enough, but now the Phoenix Arena is committed. They're going to bring down the Tusk a second time. 9 is back in on his second life. Monica goes down. Triple kill for Andros. What happened? They isolate Monica under the tier 4s in the CK illusions. They finally trap him, and that's it. As soon as the PL is dead, all of that net worth lead vanishes. It evaporates. There is a buyback. But it seems as though the push to the higher ground is just as much a poison chalice for the Dire as it has been for the Radiant all game long. I'm going to have to go back and watch that fight in replay on slow motion. There are just so many units, so many fireworks going off, but it seems as though 9 finally feeling himself for the first time in such a long, frustrating game. Look how defensive these items were. He had a BKB. He had a Neon Disc. He had a Cheese. Can you blame him for trying to dive and end things there? And instead he dies immediately under the tier 4s. The supports manage to take the fall for the side of view of Andros. Andros survives. Hugh survives. Both arenas get used, and I think the big difference there as opposed to the previous high ground fight was the last fight had such incredible clutch Phoenix eggs, and Zoob's just, I'm not sure why, I think he maybe got Panda splitted, but just was not able to have the same impact in that fight. That actually made a massive difference. This Sunray, this Phoenix pick, has been quietly pivotal through the whole second half of this game, and without it, Hugh got to stand and deliver, and they had the firepower again, suddenly, to bring down these cores from Looney Melb. And now, finally, for the first time in a while, we're back to serious threat to the Dire base. Looney Melb defend their last racks with everything they have. They do not want to buy back on Monica. They don't even want to buy back on Samsara. 9 is ruptured. At this point, he just takes the damage. He just astral steps out. I mean, Andros definitely got his money's worth out of this core Bloodseeker, out of this Rupture, but at this point it is definitely a shadow of its former self. Maybe time to get the Blood Mist going on. I mean, it's 7% HP damage per second. That's got to at some point become good against the PL illusions, right? I think Andros maybe doesn't want to lower his own survivability if he can afford it. And who can blame him? And now Reem is just sending in Kamikaze Pandas to batter away at the melee racks. Again, smart stuff. There's a lot of Panda splits to use. Now the PL's back alive, we're going to see maybe the less damage be done. Yeah, the Pandas are going to get bashed up, but that melee rax is getting low. They're wearing it down. The only mercy for Looney Melb at this point is that they were able to avoid spending buybacks, and I guess that Roshan is still not alive. Still on cooldown. So there is going to be, presumably, a hell of a team fight around the Roche pit, but crucially, Toph has had time to clear things with a gem. Oh, actually, I guess one more difference in that last team fight. That Wraith Pact, which was delayed by the courier dying for the Venge, that wasn't present for a couple of fights there, and obviously for the entire game prior, has definitely arrived as of that last team fight. How much difference did it make there? I couldn't tell you. There's no way I knew where the totem was in the middle of all that chaos, but it probably helped. 9 actually slipping the clutches of the Radiant. They get a great soulbind off on the 2 cores. This is an opening. Andros is just dead to rights here. Fully caught out. They tried to get a pounce on 9, but it was all bait. They're going to lose the CK as well. 9 has a Wind Waker. He's so easily maneuvering around that team fight. What a misstep. Did I just commentator curse them? I said there was going to be a crucial team fight, and basically the only way that happens is if multiple cores get caught out, and sure enough, they can't resist the chance to try and jump 9, and the vision not in their favor. All their wards and their supports are up on the top side of the map when they go for that play. They just got a little bit ahead of themselves. It's such a long game. They've been watching their hopes be adjusted down minute by minute. Who can really blame them for trying to take what looked like a cheap and easy catch? But the catch was on them. And now Andros crucially has no buyback. Actually, neither of them do. And Reem has no buyback for 2 minutes. So, as much as I've been praising them for keeping their base alive, this is going to be a real challenge. Reem was pursued across the map. Tried to cut creeps behind the Dire in that spot. I don't know if there was a way for him to teleport out. His TP may not have been off cooldown at the time. That's a very costly death. Could actually be GG right here. After all of this, after a 60-minute game, after a 3-game series, after a lower bracket run, after an entire season of AEL Dota, is this how it ends for you of Andros? They have a glyph. They have Andros' buyback. It's off cooldown. He's back in with a Hex and a Refresher and the Timeless Relic to extend that Hex. That's one way to get some kills. He lets loose with the Ruptures. Not a Monica yet. They're just taking the safe heroes they can catch. They're trying to bring down 9. They know that he bought back before. Andros is getting bashed. They're linked together again. They're just working on the Fountain, but they haven't even killed the tier 4. So actually, all of that work defending the base all this time has paid off. Someone's Aeon Disc proc somewhere. It's probably 9, to be honest. All Die Heroes are alive, but defensive tools have been expanded, and the Radiant are making full use of their Fountain. They are still only 3. They can't really commit, but they're even keeping their Venge alive, and they are delaying the fall of their throne, but for how long? The CK's isolated, he's bashed down, the Sunray from the egg is unstoppable, and ultimately that is what's going to make the difference. It's not quite over yet, but the throne is very low. There's no CK, there's no Venge, it's just Andros. The Venge spirit is down even, and Andros, he may have given this up. He's on the backlines, actually. He's trying to play with 9, but Monica is not playing with him. The throne is the target. Andros goes down. It's GG. Oh, my God. After 62 minutes, Looney Meld, they have earned. Boy, have they earned it. Their spot in the grand finals here. If I'm peeking the mic, I'm apologizing, but you must surely have been expecting it. Look at that in the chat. Don't ever tell me that this league is secondary, that it doesn't matter. These players... At least for that match, they were into it. They were giving it their absolute all. Guts left on the floor here, and unfortunately, most of them are the guts of you of Andros. They gave it socks. They tried. Boy, did they try, but they ultimately could not carry it out. Monica clutching it with help, of course. The whole cast came together. Samsara, Zoobs, 9 rallying back. What a game. Well done, lads. I'm so happy to have been able to cast that. I hope you all enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed the whole series. That was amazing stuff. And of course, guess what? There is no rest for the wicked. For your efforts, Looney Mob, for your sins, you will be back here in, at this point, a bit less than 24 hours. To try and win it all against the Warrior Chads. And if the Warrior Chads were watching, maybe they're a little bit intimidated. I expect not. Not with a name like that. Not with their attitude. But man, Looney Meld, they'll be holding their heads up high. They will be backing themselves going into this grand final matchup. And you of Andros, it was so nearly them. I can't even fully say that it was preventable, this defeat. Maybe game 2 was with better drafting or better play. Maybe this game was with some incredible level of finesse under the towers. But ultimately, Looney Meld showed such unbelievable coolness under fire, under pressure in their base. Shoutouts to 9 in particular for absolutely fighting his way back into that game and having a huge impact by the end. I mean, you've heard me talk about this game for an hour, so I'm not going to talk anymore. I've shouted out the sponsors. We've done all that we can, but I will say before we go, make sure that if you aren't already, that you are following AEL on social media, on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram and TikTok. Do you not want more content? Are you not entertained? All of those URLs, by the way, are just the website, YouTube, twitter.com, whatever, /AU Esports League. So make sure you're doing that. And if you aren't already watching this on Twitch and following us there, make sure you follow twitch.tv/AEL Uni and twitch.tv/AEL Uni too. If you're watching the VOD on YouTube, for instance, because your friend told you have to check out Game 3 of Andros and Looney Melb, make sure you do follow, because there are more great games coming up as early as tomorrow. And then after that, presumably a bit of a wait. But we have plenty of other esports here on the channel as well. Rocket League, all sorts of things. It's all this good. This is the kind of quality that Uni Esports can deliver. And of course, if you are interested, especially in other esports, in Dota, but also in card games, in fighting games, and everything else that I do, follow me on Twitter @AWanderingBard. That's all I'll ask. All my work is there. And we can have a nice chat about esports. You can tell me what you think of this game and my casting. I'm going to take a break, though, because I'm going to be solo casting tomorrow night as well. And I need to rest my voice in case this game happens again. I hope it will. I hope I destroy my voice tomorrow night. But hopefully you'll be there to share it with me. For now, though, good night. Get some rest, everybody. We'll be back with more quality Dota here on AEL Uni League tomorrow night.